Stunt Corner Podcast, episode 5. Alright.
What up, world? It's yours truly, Eric Mazampaka, and I'm here with episode 5 of Stunt Corner Podcast with an incredibly special guest, one of my favorite people to watch work. I'm here with the Sydney Kid, the Don Juan of the Arrowverse. Bam Bam, thank you, man. James Bamford, Canadian producer and director, recently worked on the beloved show Arrow, and an true honor and pleasure. I don't think you guys know how special it is. Help me say a warm welcome to James Bamford. James, what's up, my friend?
What's up? Oh my God, I haven't done that for so
I
long.
know, we get to shake hands.
Fuck COVID.
Fuck over.
Thanks for inviting me.
Oh yeah, and again, I was saying this honestly, as a director, I don't think a lot of people get an opportunity to see what a director does or what they have to do and the crew they have to work with, and he does it exceptionally well. And today we're here to find out, how does he do it so well? So James, being a director tends to involve a lot of right and left brain, analytical and creative. And you do it really well. You ride that line of analytical and creative. So what are some of the sports or programs you were in as a kid that helped you in the current career that you're in?
Good question. Life experience. Whatever led every director to, what leads you to where you are. So I started martial arts very early on. I think I started out playing lacrosse when I was in kindergarten. My father played on the Victoria Shamrocks. It's
Cool.
Big lacrosse team over there.
Yeah.
And so I was playing lacrosse very early, and then baseball, and then football, and I started karate when I was 9, I think.
Oh, okay.
Over there with Mike Puckett, Bateson's school. Stan Pederick was kicking around, and
The legend.
And we used to spar with those guys, and that was sort of how I got into the film industry, was through martial arts to begin with.
Oh, okay.
As a stuntman, but as a director, essentially my first day on set as a stuntman, I noticed a lot of things happening on set, and I paid attention to what the director did and all the other departments on set. And when I saw the first sequence that I'd performed as a stunt double, it was a fight sequence on a television series called COBRA, back in the day, stunt doubling Michael Dudikoff, who was the American Ninja way back in the day before that. When I saw the end footage, the edited footage, and on the actual episode later on television, I was horrified. So I knew what we did on set, and I knew what we had performed, and I knew what everybody went through and everything that went into it.
Yeah.
Back then we were shooting 35 mil, on film.
Yeah. So things took loud.
Things took longer and whatnot. But when I knew as I said, I knew what we did on set, and when I saw the finished product, I was not impressed. I was horrified. So I started realizing that to make your work come out a little closer, at least a little closer, to the way it's meant to be portrayed, you actually have to have more control over the situation. So you have to be a director. Well, I thought at that point I was a stunt double. I was a stunt performer. So I thought, okay, to make better of the work, I need to be a stunt coordinator. I need to be a fight choreographer. I choreographed that fight my first day on set because there was no other sort of martial artists around. So the stunt coordinator who hired me on my first job said, by the way, I'm not a martial artist, so in your demo tape that you sent, there was some really cool stuff. So if you could throw some of that stuff in a fight.
So your first gig, you were a fight coordinator?
On set the next day.
The next day.
After he hired me, I came over from Victoria, came over to the to a rehearsal space you wanted to make sure that I was the guy on the tape.
Yeah.
That I sent, the VHS tape
Yeah.
that I'd sent over, me and my sensei put together. And yeah, so I did all the things, you know, that was on the tape. I was about 24, I think.
Crazy, man.
And yeah, I passed the test, I guess. And he said, okay, you got a place to stay because you work tomorrow. And by the way, I need you to put together a fight, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay. And yeah.
So early on to your career, you were kind of like, you kind of maybe not cognitively aware that you wanted to be a director, but you were aware that the quality wasn't where it should have been.
Well, not on every show.
Not on every show.
Obviously, but in television back then, yeah, there was a big gap between the talent of the performers and what they were putting out there, and editing and directing and everything else. So I just realized very early on that to have an impact or some sort of creative input or control over what your, you know, sequence was going to end up like, you needed to be in the stunt coordinator position, the fight choreographer position. There wasn't really a fight choreographer position at the time. It was just hire some guys, and, you know, one of the guys hopefully could help the stunt coordinator piece together the fight. If the stunt coordinator himself wasn't a martial artist or, you know, what have you, because everybody wasn't back then. There's just very few people back then. So, and yeah, it was a difficult. You just had no control. You know, you're on set and you're like, you had no input. Everybody was, you know, don't speak unless spoken to.
Yeah.
It was a lot different than it is now. It's a lot more of a community. Everybody's helping and everybody's, excuse me, I've got an idea. You know. Whereas back then, shut the fuck up. You know. You felt like you just had to be silent and respectful. And if somebody asked your opinion, you gave it. But if you weren't asked, you just sat back and you know did what you were told. Yeah. So I started one of the other stunt coordinators I worked with very early on back then said, you know, you should really you should know your lenses and, you know, really pay attention to the camera. And so I started doing that, really focusing on what the director did, and I just learned by doing. I mean, I ended up spending over the years over 80,000 plus hours on film sets, and if you don't learn something in that period of time, you're not paying attention. So I mean, lots of people go to work and you know, go to work and go home and don't pay attention. They don't want to.
Cruise control.
Yeah, they don't want any responsibility. They don't want any. They just want a job, and you know that. I was never that guy. So, you know, I always wanted a career in everything I did. So.
And so, like before 24, did you have any inclinations about, like, did you have a love for cinema in that type of way?
Oh, of course, from childhood.
So that's where it started. Like, so you were already inclined towards cinema, and something about film that really kind of held you. Right?
Yeah, it was magical. Like, I mean, you know, when I was a kid, I was watching films that, you know, like The Godfather, you know, like old classics that most little kids weren't, you know, watching. It would come on TV and I'd be transfixed by it. And the filmmaking, I'd get lost in it, and, you know, which is what it's supposed to be. It's somewhat escapism and that sort of thing. And I would be just baffled by how that got made. Yeah. And, you know, asked a lot of questions. But, you know, all I had was my father and mother to ask the questions of, and
you could jump on YouTube and
there was no internet. Internet didn't exist. There was no Twitter. There was no hey, let me Google something. You know, there was none of that. So you had to ask your parents or your grandparents. Your dad, you know, everybody knows you. Your dad might just tell you whatever the hell you know. He might just fuck with you a little bit. How did that happen? You know? But, you know, everybody has their own opinions, and I think my parents' opinions were based on going to Universal Studios, the park or whatever, and what they heard on the news or what have you. So there was no real, learning about the film industry back then unless you went and sought it out somehow. And growing up in Sydney on Vancouver Island, there wasn't
None.
much of a film industry anywhere.
Yeah.
I thought I'm going to go do it somehow. I got involved with theater and I was acting and taking courses and all that sort of thing and being a martial artist, and I didn't know where I was going with it all, but I didn't know what the opportunities were. And there weren't really that many at the time. Meanwhile, over in Vancouver, they were filming 21 Jump Street and all sorts of stuff was going on. It was so close, yet I didn't know that it was happening because we just didn't have that access to the information. So
when did you make the jump over to Vancouver? Or that was because of work? Was that due
I came over around 24 years old and did that little screen test sort of thing. Yeah. And then I started coming back. I started commuting. I was a juvenile corrections officer in Victoria.
Oh, were you working at Wiki?
Not Wilkie.
Wilkie,
no, that's for adults.
Oh, okay.
I was a juvie corrections officer. So I worked with juvenile offenders between the ages of 12 and 18 years old. It was a maximum security, secure custody facility back then. And it was, murderers, rapists, all of that, you name it. And while I was working there, I got a phone call asking if I was available to put some stuff on tape. They needed a stunt double, a 6 feet tall, 170 pound, martial artist that could stunt double this guy. Yeah. And they called my karate instructor, Mike Puckett, at the time, and said, hey, and he's like, yeah, I've got a young black belt that can do this and this and that and that. And said, put me on tape, and we sent the VHS over. Here, I did a bunch of stuff. It took us like 3 hours, and then we edited it together. And it was pretty funny.
So, like back then, when you had to edit and submit VHS like reels, how did you cut those? Did you have to go into like a Blockbuster and get like? Were there companies cutting?
There was
tapes?
No. We did it ourselves.
Okay.
And we did it on. I forget how I did it. There was a machine. It was so long ago, man. There was a machine, and you'd like film. We had a camera. You put this big fucking VHS tape in the camera, and we filmed a certain amount, and then we could roll the tape back so that it would cut into whatever the next piece is. I don't remember exactly how I did it, and then I started editing after that on my laptop with like iMovie and stuff, just messing around when that Firewire and mini DV came in, and just started fooling around when I wanted to improve my skills because editing is a really big component of being a director, but also being a stunt coordinator and a stunt performer. Now people weren't really doing it. I was doing it early 90s. I started whenever technology jumped up from VHS tapes, and then everybody had a little little camera and whatnot. It was just something I like to play with. I was making the VHS tapes. It was a long,
it's like an easy
process. Yeah. And I, again, because the technology is so old, I have no idea how we did this. And we edited the thing together and put it in the mail. Yeah. You can't now. You just throw something on your phone and
boom,
email it, boom, and a stunt coordinator has it or a producer or what have you. Then you had to like send it in the mail and kind of bless it and hope that it got there.
Be at home for your phone,
right people, and sit beside your phone. I think there was pagers back then. So if you carried a pager, you were either a gangster or you were like, or you had a really important job.
Yeah, you were slanging dope on the side.
Exactly. Or the cell phones when they first came out like this. But you sat by your phone. I think it took 2 days for me to get a phone call because the mail took that long for that VHS tape to end up over there. And they said, can you come over here? And where do you live? Well, in Victoria. Okay. Can you come over to Vancouver? we have to see if
Yeah.
you're the guy on the tape
Catfishing
before
us?
we hire you.
Catfishing us?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. But it made sense back
Yeah.
then. There was a lot of people sending. When I came over, eventually I went through the stunt coordinator. His name was David Duchovny, and there was a Guy Norris was another gentleman from Australia. They were co-coordinating this show, and there was a book full of resumes at the time.
Yeah.
And I just was sitting there, something to do, looking at all these resumes, and this guy was like, world champion kickboxer. And at the time, I was very active in that community, in the competitive martial arts community.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this guy's not a.
I've never heard of
this guy is not.
Yeah.
But it's you could get away with.
Because you couldn't look up somebody back
Bullshit,
then.
exactly.
Yeah.
You couldn't just Google somebody. So you could just go, oh, okay. They didn't know.
12th degree dawn and fucking...
Exactly. Yeah. It was pretty funny seeing some of that. But there were world champion kickboxers around at the time, like Tony Morelli, who was a stunt coordinator, became one of my mentors. And of course, we were aware of him because he was... very well publicized, and he was out there.
Yeah.
But there was people saying that they, did all this lists of things, and there was no way to fact check. You had to call people, but I think so. That's all you get. So there was no record of anything or whatnot. That was very interesting at the time.
Yeah.
Since then, I thought, okay, this, people can say whatever they want.
Yeah.
I've seen my name on people's resumes since then when I finally did become a stunt coordinator, and people had put my name as a reference as if they worked for me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I would call the people up and say, hi, so I'm on your resume that you sent to me, but you didn't work for me. What is, and this happened at least 3 times. At least 3 times.
Oh,
but you have to let people know that you can't let people just sort of go through life going, But listen, that's dishonest, and
that's not a good foot.
You didn't work for me. You just. But great. I was on set that day. I was an extra, and yeah, but you didn't work
for me.
Didn't work for me. So why is
you're lying?
Well, you don't misrepresent yourself.
Yeah.
I don't think that happens as much.
And also, I gotta like that's there's no longevity in that type of like anyone that's because it's a fucking incredible industry and career to be in. Like every time I show up to work and I'm like, fucking thank God I'm still doing something right because I'm still showing up here. No one's fired me yet. But the eagerness that people have in order to get there, they sometimes forget, character. They forget certain things in order that people want to be around. So they'll lie to get into this industry. And this is an industry that everyone wants to fucking get into on any level. And so anytime I meet somebody that's been around as long as you have and works at the level you have, it fucking talks about your work ethic and just who you are. Because there's I don't think there's that type of longevity in this industry unless your character speaks to that, right? But I'm speaking out of a green space as well. Like I'm pretty green in this industry, but the ones there's certain names I keep hearing through the industry. But every time I hear stories like this where somebody's trying to lie their way into it, it's unfortunate, but I could see why people are so eager to want to get into it.
I think in any industry, though, I think there's people who made whole careers out of
just bullshit,
a bullshit story and ran with it. And it's when they got to a certain point, it was too late. And hey, maybe they faked it. Maybe they faked it for a few years, but by the time they got to where they wanted to be, it was too late. They had already learned everything they needed to learn and established the relationships and all that kind of stuff. I think there's still attempts at at that sort of way of doing business.
Yeah.
But there's just so much more access to information,
Yeah.
out there that it doesn't get, it doesn't go by as much as it used to, because sometimes it would take years for people to catch up with the lie, and you'd see it,
Like Bloodsport, wasn't that the entire premise of that movie was based on an actual martial artist that lied?
Frank Dukes.
Frank Dukes. Yeah.
And there was this, I don't know, because I've seen all sorts of stories about it, but
I've heard that he bullshitted his way. Like somebody dropped him off in the forest for a tournament, and then he walked out. Like he walked there with a duffel bag, and then came out of the forest with like a trophy, saying, "Oh, I just did this kumite thing and won a trophy." So it's like that level of delusion, of like that's what I heard. And then he wrote the book, and he got the movie Bloodsport made after him. Do you think that type of bullshit could still fly by? To a point where it's like.
I've seen a certain amount of it recently, actually, at different levels of, whether it's in the stunt portion of the industry, or directing, or writing, or what have you. Somebody takes credit for somebody else's script, or, there's a little bit of that, but that's why there's things like WGA that you're supposed to register your script to protect yourself, and copyrights and all that kind of stuff, and that's why there's lawyers, and there's entertainment lawyers out there that are continually trying to protect their clients from getting misrepresented and somebody else stealing their work, and because it happens,
especially at these levels of money. Like when you're talking about productions, and where it's like movies are signed off on like a few $100 million or whatever. Like there's not many except for music. There's not very many artistic industries that make that type of money, right? Like
I mean, even in the indie film world, like people are trying to get a film made for $30,000, $50,000, $500,000 or what have you.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting watching the process of optioning a script, and what's involved, and what other parties may go to, what lengths other parties may go to sort of latch on to, or be a part of the process if that script becomes, quote unquote, a successful property. There's a lot of people that jump out of the woodwork and, make a claim to it legally, or try to tie you up in legalities, so they'll get their piece of it, or what have you. I see that happening a fair amount out there, and it's baffling to me. I'm like, I don't understand why people do business like that, but some people make their living doing business like that.
I think that's I think this has always gone hand in hand, right? Like there's always like the people that were the idea people, the creatives that necessarily didn't have the business sense in order to protect themselves, and they get taken advantage of. And like I've had it on very, very, very small scales through my 20s as an artist, trying to figure stuff out, and trying to be that hybrid creative and business savvy. It's a hard thing to walk. That's why, like earlier when I was asking you about being right and left hemisphere, like dominant, like analytical and creative, like that's why it makes you successful at that business / creative endeavors. And that's something balance. I'm trying to learn more about. Yeah.
It's an interesting balance, but it's not for everyone.
No. Not everyone can handle it though.
No, not everybody wants to have that responsibility, as we were discussing previously, but not everybody. A lot of people just want to go to their job and go home.
Yeah, cut the check, go home,
not think about it at all.
Yeah.
Having that, when you move into stunt coordinator, fight choreographer, that you have to go home and now edit your work and plan what's going on the next day and for the next week, and budget and all those other things that, not everybody wants to be part of. Not everybody wants to deal with a budget or even think about the money other than the paycheck that comes in the mail, sort of thing. So it's a different person that can handle all of that stuff and still, function at a high level in both.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone.
No.
There's a lot of people that went into the business and just assume that the natural progression is from stunt performer to stunt coordinator to second unit director to director perhaps.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not for everyone. It's just not everybody's meant to be a performer. Not everybody's meant to be a stunt coordinator.
Yeah.
Not everybody's meant to be management or
Yeah.
a leader, period.
Yeah.
Everyone's different.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk till we're, till we can't breathe any longer, till we're blue in the face and say that anybody can do anything they want.
No.
But everybody's constructed differently mentally and physically and,
Yeah.
everything else. I mean, speaking of physically, I didn't ever assume that I would end up with, bilateral hip replacements either. But
how long were you in the industry before you had to get the surgery?
A while. If I started around 24 years old, and I think I had them by like 42 years old. Greatest surgery ever, though. No pain anymore. But I think it had something to do with my genetics.
Yeah.
I think I had pain on and off depending on what kind of training I did. Or what have you since I was like a teenager. So there was probably some inherent issue with the hip joint.
And also just that's like stunt performing is not.
Well, once I became a stuntman, you just on the cement.
Yeah.
And back when I started, you couldn't just go and buy padding. It wasn't readily available. You had hockey pads. So that's too big. You look. You don't look like the actor anymore. You've made your size or your shape change because they'd have these giant pads, like goalie pads or whatever that you try to, slide in. That just didn't work. So I'd rather be a better double and get hired the next time. So I just won't wear any pads. Yeah. And then on some jobs, that's how it was. And then on some jobs, we'd have, a big pride about it. And, it's no pad day, everybody. And it's got like a dare, and see how many times. Well, because, when you smash your hip onto the cement, it swells up. So that's a pad. And then when you do take 2 and 7 and 25, you're all swollen, and who cares? It's numb now. Man. And so, there's no doubt how some of us ended up with hip replacements and, broken everything.
And also, like, another thing back then, because currently everything is digital, so you could just coverage, shoot. But the other thing that a lot of people, I guess, don't realize as well is that how fucking loud the film was when it was running.
Particularly if you were going at high speed. So if you were running it, trying to get a slow-mo shot.
Yeah.
The camera would whiz, like that loud. But normally, it wasn't too bad.
It wasn't too bad? Oh, okay.
No, just like regular 24 frames. It wasn't, not that I recall now.
I just remember hearing Simon talk about that and saying one thing people don't remember is like how loud those fucking machines are.
I didn't think it was too loud. I do find that it was a lot more quiet on the set, though. Back then, it was a lot more, I don't want to say disciplined, perhaps.
That's a fair word.
Coming from an old school mentality of the film industry, it was very regimented and very, sort of paramilitary,
actually,
somewhat.
Yeah.
So, as I was saying, originally, like, you didn't speak until spoken to, and you didn't offer up an opinion unless you were asked, and all that kind of thing. And that's sort of how we came. And I think a lot of the departments kind of ran like that. But then at the same time, there was, the other aspect of it where, the casting couches and the, where you find the whole, Weinstein aspect of the industry,
dirty
which is
side of Hollywood,
dark
side of Hollywood,
shitty, horrible side. So then there's that stuff going on at the same time. but the people who really, loved what they did, loved their job, and loved, who were creatives, were, incessantly like very strict about, what they did, or they'd do anything to be in the, involved in the industry. So, I remember lots of people training, people are training now, I see, but trying to get their hands on every sort of skill, it would be, you'd start the morning and then go to the gym and do a bunch of weights, and then go to the kickboxing gym and spar, 10 rounds or 20 rounds or something, and then go to the pool and dive off the 10-meter, board, and then go to the gymnastics gym at night and try a whole bunch of tricks, and, and then you'd be in bed by midnight and then do the whole thing the next day. And this is what, myself and my training partner when I first started was Gaston Howard. So we were like, came up around the same time.
Cool.
I started a little bit earlier than he did, but we just came up together. So we spent a lot of time together.
Cool, man.
And we trained together like every day almost.
Yeah.
And then you'd get a job. There wasn't as much work back then. So you trained crazy, and then you'd get a job, and then, oh, I can't spar. What do you mean you can't spar tomorrow? Well, I got to be on set, And you'd kind of like almost like being on set was like the biggest thing ever.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you missed training with your training partner. And so that sucked. But at the same time, this is what we're training for.
This is why we're here,
Yeah, so it was a really odd dichotomy, and kind of missed those days, actually. It was a lot of fun. We used to beat the shit out of each other in the ring. We would spar and no headgear, and like it was just. And Gaston was particularly was like the Northwestern Muay Thai middleweight champ or something like that. And the same with Paul. I used to spar with Paul with Lazenby, and he was the Canadian heavyweight Muay Thai champ. And so those guys both hit pretty
hard.
Yeah, I was just grew up a martial artist and was competitive kickboxer, but I was never a champion per se.
But you were training with champions though.
Always, since
that's like
with like Stan Pederick.
Yeah,
Mike that's always was around that. Yeah. So it was just I like getting in and mixing it up with people who were at that high of a level. It just made you feel, like you were doing something.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like even watching you work, I can tell there's your like body memory. Like I can tell when you're watching a really intense action scene that you're like moving with it.
God.
I like no, but like what that tells me is that you're keyed in to what's happening because you were a fight coordinator, you were a coordinator. But it's interesting to watch your body mimic the language because that's like I could imagine that's like a music like a drummer or a guitarist that just can't help but incessantly tap his foot.
Can't help it.
Like he's watching another musician playing and he's tapping his foot. Like that's like you watching you direct a fight scene.
People film me behind the
I love it. I love
all
it.
the time because
but that just shows me how like dialed in you are to what's happening.
I'm exhausted.
But
I get so intense, and it's funny because you're like trying to make sure that they're doing as if you're puppeteering the performers with your own body. But it's a weird thing.
No, I love it, man. That's full engagement, right? Like
I know a director who did that. John Badham is his name. He was one of my mentors, directing wise. Actually, he directed Saturday Night Fever.
Oh shit!
If you remember, he's written a few books, and he's a really, really smart man. But he had that same affliction. So when he's behind the monitor, and he wasn't a martial artist or anything.
Yeah.
He was just this little dude who directed a bunch of Hollywood blockbusters way back in the day. But he would really do the same exact, and that's not why I was doing it. He went and got like hypnotherapy because he would get these incredible migraines from tents and stuff. Wow. Yeah, way back in the day. And sometimes he would go and like lean on the dolly, and the camera operator would be like, "You're shaking the camera. Get off me. Get the fuck off me."
Yeah.
So it's like a thing. It's a real, it's an affliction, if you will. But you just can't, like, you want to get in there.
Yeah.
It's like, when, you're
Cornering a fighter. And you're like,
it's like that. Like your parents say, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself kind of mentality. I don't know if that's what it is exactly, but it's up there with, like,
no, I feel that.
You want to be back in there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're doing this other job, and you can't help it. It's just like I don't know. It's weird.
I think people around you, you call it an affliction, but I think people around you appreciate it because it's like, it makes them enjoy the work a bit more. Because they see the general.
Because I look like an idiot.
Yeah. No,
and it's entertaining. So look at Bam.
I'm like, if the captain's
around.
enjoying himself, like if the captain was at the ship and was dancing while he was like fucking like doing this, be like, yo, we're good. The captain's happy. We're rolling.
I think it's important from stunt coordinator or even as a director, I think I'm responsible for the crew's energy. So whether that's drinking 5 triple espressos a day or whatever it takes, everybody on that set, it's a hard job. Everybody.
Yeah,
it's
14, 16 hours.
Plus, and you spend more time with those people than you spend with your family.
Yeah.
And I feel responsible for making them have a good time, because I want to be there, and people enjoy themselves a lot more and have a great experience. And you run into people years later and they're like, "Hey man, I worked with you on whatever, and that was so much fun," and whatever.
Yeah.
But so the energy thing, I try to impart. Also, I'm serious. We're there to do work, and I expect a certain level of performance and everything else in all the departments. But we're also all there to have fun. I mean, it's too hard of a job to not enjoy it.
Yeah.
If you don't enjoy it, then you should go, work at McDonald's or whatever, because just too many hours. And people say, "Oh, the money's worth it," but in the end, if you're not enjoying yourself, then it's not worth it. No money's worth it, So, but that does not explain why I twitch and do that, because I have no idea I'm doing that. So, and I try to control it, and then I don't
think you should. Yeah. I think that's like part of the enjoyment of working with you is you watching you enjoy the work. Like that's
one of the actors, Emily Betricard's on Arrow. It wasn't an action scene. It was an emotional scene that I was. So I guess I do the same kind of stuff in emotional scenes.
Nice.
But she was like saying, she came up and whispered to me. I was on the monitor. She says, "You're breathing funny," and I'm like, "What?" I guess I'm like going. Yeah, I get it. Like, if somebody dies on set or whatever in a scene, I'll start crying, and like I get
Dude,
right.
I love it. I
get
love
right
it.
into it. Like,
No, I get that.
Some of our scenes on Arrow, I'm just like these big, and some of the finales that I've directed and or crossovers and whatnot. Somebody always dies, or they're the big emotional moments in the series, and it's funny because some of the characters who have passed away or they're going to prison for the rest of their life or whatever, these big emotional moments, you work with these people every day and they become your family. So it's like they really died because they're leaving the show, or whatever. So it can be an incredibly emotional moment. And I've cried on set.
Yes, you should.
So many times, and I'm like, I'm not the big tough guy.
No, dude, because you're an artist. I think if it resonates enough, it should. Like, I think as a side note, like, if something brings you to tears like that, like, I think crying outside of it, crying for sad reasons, is a very powerful emotion. It's like very cathartic. It's very, liberating in certain ways. But I think when you're creating and you feel moved to a point of crying, like that's art. Like that's why I don't think it's like that's. I think that's. It gives me. It's like another reason I like you as a director now. Is to like hear shit like that is because
I can't help it. I get to, but I've been like that, as a kid, I guess, also like an emotional kid.
Yeah,
I suppose.
Does that? So I think, and also because maybe that's why this industry works well for people like us, or like especially where you are in your career now, is that there's a certain level of care that for the art. Like there's a love and a respect you have for cinema, right? There's like that's the only reason you are doing the work the way you do it. And
it's hard on you though. Like when you care that much,
yeah,
it's really hard on you, especially if, for instance, when you start directing on episodic television, for instance, you have a certain amount of control on the set and in the editing room, but after you walk away from your edit of your episode, if it's an episode of TV,
yeah,
it's out of your hands. And quite often it has to get out, if it's broadcast television, it has to get down to 42-minute broadcast time. And quite often the scripts are written 60 pages, 55 pages, and, a minute a page. So you have to edit it down and you have to cut out all this material that's been shot. And it doesn't always, jam. And different directors have had this conversation with me on, they're like, it's like giving up your child for adoption. You give, making a film or making a television episode of television is some people equate it to giving birth, you know?
Yeah.
And you give birth to this child and this beautiful, perfect child, and then, well, here you go, and you hand it over, and the first thing they do is cut its arm off, and you're like, oh my God, my beautiful child, I mean, that's extreme, but I've heard it described as that, and you have to sort of get this. It's all opinion. It's all somebody else's opinion. In creativity, beauty is in the eye of the beholder always. Yeah. So what you think is wonderful and fantastic, somebody else may not think that. Yeah. So they cut its arm off.
Yeah.
Oh, now it's, oh my God, it's deformed. No, it's not. It's beautiful. And so you have to learn to step back from it, and it's not mine. It's a product. But when you're an artist, you have a very hard time doing that, and you can get very, affronted. Like you can be like, oh my God, and that sort of thing. It's like, actors audition all the time and audition, and very seldom, the odds aren't high that they're going to get a job from an audition. So it's that same sort of feeling in a different way, but similar aspect of that feeling when you're a director, or when you're a different kind of filmmaker, when you're a fight choreographer and you've created this beautiful thing. Okay, can you just cut it in half, please? And that, flippy thing there, get rid of that. And
we have 20 minutes to shoot this.
And we have 20 minutes to shoot it. So can you just do it at once? We'll just keep rolling the cameras. And we'll just, and this one terminology that I've always hated, but we'll just hose it down, which means cover it, shoot as many different angles of it, and so that there's no design to it, no rhyme, no reason. We'll just let we'll figure it out in editing, in post. But I've never agreed with that perspective. I think that people who do that are coming, incredibly. You have to get coverage, of course, because you need it to make your film or your series. But if you're just shooting a bunch of random shots and have no idea how they fit together,
no rhyme or reason,
then you're not designing your episode. You're not designing your film. And then what's the point? You're just collecting digital media at this point.
That's an important distinction. You said because you're not designing the film anymore. Because that's that's where
understanding the editory process comes in.
Okay.
It's very important. To be a director, you have to be an editor, or you should have at least tried to do some editing at some point.
Yeah.
Because that is where you can turn wonderful, fantastic, beautiful gold into garbage.
Yeah.
If you can have the best footage in the world and you can destroy it in post, or alternatively speaking, you can have this crap that you shot and transform it into this beautiful,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
with a few, clicks.
Yeah.
And actually, I'll just trim it there and trim it there, and look what we did. We made something, blossom. So editing is such an important part of the process, and if you don't understand it, then as a filmmaker, you need to get out there and figure it out.
Do you think in this day and age, if you're, let's say if you were a director, there's the importance of learning how to edit. If you're a performer, there's the importance to learn how to shoot and edit. Do you think we're at a time now where it doesn't help you to be a non-jack of all trades? Like the fact that if you're like a purist, I'm just a stuntman. I don't shoot. I don't edit. And not to say that that's not a wrong way to pursue a career, but do you think it's more helpful for any future filmmakers for them to learn the how to edit, designing a story, that from like conceptualizing the script, the breakdown of the budget. Do you think we're in a time where it helps you as any type of member of this industry to learn as many of the... Because back in the day, I'm assuming you didn't have to, right?
You didn't. No, you didn't have to. It still helped, though. I mean, as I said, I realized very early on that you should have been paying attention to, or I should have been paying attention to what he did, what she did, what they did.
Yeah.
Because you want to know a little bit of what everybody's job is.
Yeah.
If you want to be a complete filmmaker. If stunt performers are equated, they're professional athletes. Some people's take on being a professional athlete is tunnel vision. You're just, I'm really good at this one skill, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And you're a specialist. Way back in the day, when I started, there were some specialists. I was brought in as a specialist, a martial artist, but then I took it upon myself to learn stunt driving, and high falls, and fire, and everything else, and wire work, and you want to. At the time, there wasn't as much work, so you needed to be versatile to be able to survive if you wanted to work as a full-time stunt performer. So now there's so much work that you can be a specialist. You can survive as a specialist. Just go from one fight to another fight to another. There's too much work.
Yeah.
It's very hard to find those people who gel with you and have the level of skill and experience that you want on your team. And when you find them, quite often 20 other people also have found them, and they can't stick around because they're getting utilized all over the place, and good for them. But part of the process is finding your niche and finding who you want to work with, and that team, because specifically in the stunt industry as well, it's not always, but it can be a life or death situation. So you have to have that trust and that compatibility with the people you're working.
Yeah, it's like going to war with people, right? Like you want to trust the guy beside you who's gonna have your six.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to. You have. It doesn't always happen that way, and there's so many people out there, and you might meet somebody once and never see them again. In the industry now, before it was quite a bit different. It was a lot more dangerous.
I can see that.
We would do things like jump off, probably part of the reason why my hips are the way they are, but we would jump off something that's 15 feet, land, and do the fight scene while the camera's still rolling. Do a whole master of a fight from beginning to end
Yeah.
after you just jumped off a 10, 12, 15-foot thing.
Knees
whatever it
blown
is.
out.
Yeah, you're like, and then you recover, and here they come, and they're, and that sort of thing, and nowadays you would split it up and jump probably with a wire on you because visual effects is cheap nowadays, and you can erase that wire in post.
Yeah.
There wasn't always the luxury of having a pad or having being safe. We were as safe as we could be with the technology that was available to us at the time. And you tried to learn as much about every piece of equipment that you used, an air ram, a ratchet. Everybody, at least everyone that I spent time with back then and that mentored me and I was around, spent a lot of time trying to learn about all of the tools of the trade. So there were a lot of, there were a couple stunt rental companies, M&M, for instance, Mitch and Melissa back then, who rented out air rams and airbags and, and part of what a lot of us did was go hang out there and, and played with their equipment and learned as much as you could about it. And you may get a job going out with the air ram and being the techie who's running the air ram on set. And some people made their living off doing that, which was great.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how everybody found their way in the industry. Not everybody was a performer per se.
Yeah.
Even if they showed up and that's what they wanted to be. I want to be a stuntman. I want to be a stuntwoman. Whatever.
Yeah.
And they go out and they're maybe a little uncoordinated, or they maybe don't have maybe not so athletic or what have you. Whatever it is, but they found a different way in the industry. And to speak to your original question, do you have to learn how to edit, how to shoot, all that now? No, you don't. I don't think.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's great just to be a soldier. You
Yeah.
know? Sometimes it's great. I would, when I was coordinating, even I would try and coordinate part-time. And then I was on, for instance, back in the day, show Stargate Atlantis as the stunt coordinator. And then when that show was on hiatus, I would try not to coordinate anything and just go perform because I loved it so much. So I wanted to, do both. I just want to go to work and not think about, choreographing anything or or budgeting or any of that stuff. I just wanted to be a soldier.
Yeah.
And then one of the greatest parts about the industry I always loved was traveling. And, we'd get a chance to go shoot a film in Hungary, in Europe, wherever, in Jamaica I was before, had some of the, best times of your life on these trips, and get to go there and just kind of be a dude, be a soldier. Not think about, where do you want me to be? Okay.
I don't have to think.
Stand where?
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to hit me with a car. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Anyway, let's go for dinner. Yeah. And I loved those days. Those were some of the best parts about the job.
Yeah.
But something in me wanted more, wanted to create, wanted to be more satisfying, not to be the boss. I never gave a shit about that. But to have more of an impact on the content, on the creativity.
I feel that from you though, because it was never like you being like the Don Juan, the El Jefe, like those
Don Juan.
I never got the feeling that it was you were doing anything. You were. It was about being, I am the director, producer. Especially for, like, Arrow is coined as being the show that brought the Marvel universe into the DC TV world. You know, like the stringing together of Arrow, Flash, Supergirl. Like Arrow's a pretty pivotal show for TV. Like that's
And after us came Daredevil. And,
Daredevil, and then Netflix started doing it with their show. Or with the other DC characters.
With their universe.
With their universe. Yeah. But CW, like Arrow was the first and you were part of that. And that's like a big name. But it's not that I know you just because of the title of you being director producer. I know you as a guy that when he's at work has to move with the actors because he's so engaged with, it's like it's that love I see, and the way you were just making a note towards you saying that you just felt like you needed to, I think more so, I think it wasn't that you felt that you needed to have more control, but I felt it. I think what it is for artists is that it's not. It's because they can. It's because you had the capacity for that part, right? Like you wouldn't have been looking at the idea of being a director or have control unless you didn't realize you had the capacity to fill that role, right?
Yeah, if you feel like, as a stunt coordinator, you're running the set anyway, or you should be. You're in charge of safety and that creativity within that department.
Yeah.
But it also affects all the other departments, and and you just get used to running the set, and either you're a natural leader, if you will, or you're not. And some people could run the set, some people get.
You're very natural.
Some people get nervous and twitchy. Yeah, it's never been.
Yeah, you can tell like you're not thinking about it, and that's just because I've noticed other directors, and not everyone has a different way of approaching working with large groups of people and executing whatever needs to be done. But I've seen tendencies where people tend to, and I want to be a director. Like I want to tell stories. Like I love the industry for that ever since I was a kid. But I notice there's people that either shy away from that position and they want their AD to handle and not really, they kind of,
or their DP,
or somebody else take control. And there's this pull away, and then there's a non-engagement where it's like I'm director by title. Yeah, whatever, do that, do this.
See that all the time.
Yeah,
we see that all the time. Everybody wants the big chair. But nobody wants to actually do the work.
Work when you're there. Yeah. And I noticed that. I see that. I'm looking and I see what some of they're asking for, and I see the DP and what they're asking for, and that's just because I want to do the same. Like I feel like I just want to be able to help any way I can with what I can give to it. But it is kind of weird when I see certain directors that don't take the lead like that, because I feel like if you're going to be like no general in the army would get in that position unless he was suited for that job.
Yeah, you have to. You're running the set.
Yeah, like
if you're the director. There's people who. Alternatively, there's people who over direct and they will give notes and just for the sake of, look, Mom, I'm directing.
Yeah, okay.
And that's also not a good thing. You have to let people do their jobs.
Yeah.
You can't micromanage. And if you want something very specific and whoever the department head is doesn't understand it, then you have to get your hands dirty, get in there, and really you have to communicate. And that's what directing is communicating your opinion of the script. That's all directing is. You're hired to give your opinion of this material, your vision, if you will. So, and then everybody else, it's a collaboration, as you know, and everybody else is there basically to do the same thing or offer their opinion or help you facilitate your opinion.
When do you find, like, how do you navigate knowing how to get what you need out of a performer and
as a director, or as
like a director, like when you how do you know when not to interrupt what the person you hired, like the actor, to do the job, and how do you know when to input what you need out of them, like, because that's like because there tends to be directors that like hey, you're the actor, I don't want to like interrupt, but also I have to get something out of this like script. Like my job is to get these bullet points from the script. Like, how do you navigate that?
It depends. It completely
It's
depends
just like actor to actor.
Yeah,
talent to talent.
The people are people, right? So people aren't robots.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
they're not black and white. They're not, cut and dry. It's not, there's no hard and fast rules. So psychologically speaking, everybody comes from a different place. So you just have to be a person, and I could say, I do A, B, C, D, E? It's different with everyone.
Yeah, okay.
Some people you don't. For instance, on a television series, if you're a director who comes in season 3, and the lead character, the actor who plays the lead character has been there for 3 years before you've even come anywhere near that set, you should be listening to them. I mean, they know their character a lot, way more than you'll ever have the opportunity to. It doesn't matter if you've watched the show and every episode, and that actor lives that character, every day. So you have to know when to step aside and allow the actors, the stunt people, whoever, to do their job. If they're not getting to a place, and this is to your question, I think, if they're not getting to a place that you need or that you thought that you needed, you quietly whisper in their ear, or hey, can you try this? Can we try this? Because sometimes people, whether it's actors, whether it's stunt people, whether it's whoever, can get stuck in a roundabout. They just can't get out of this one performance. Yeah. For instance, and it just keeps ending up to be the same repetitive performance over and over again, and you want something different. What I try to do is, from an acting perspective, is I don't want a result direction, which is a director who is a result director would say something like, act sadder.
Okay.
Or now I want you to be angry, or whatever.
Meaner. I need you to be meaner.
And so what quite often happens in that particular instance is the actor will, first, they'll have to question themselves as did I do something wrong? That sort of thing. So how do I get them what they want? So they'll give you the representation of what you asked for, instead of being what you asked for. But it's not their fault. It's how the director has approached them. Okay. And acting is called playing for a reason, like a playbill. A play is called a play for a reason. It's playing. It has to be a playable note that you give them. Okay. So as opposed to saying, as I just said, act angry, act sad, act happy, what have you, what I try to do is allow them to bring it out of themselves, and to be able to allow them to do that, you give them a verb. Acting is a verb. Okay. Acting is a verb. Emoting is a verb. So anything. So if within the context of the dialogue, you give them something to do, but emotionally. So when you're saying, hey, how are you? If that's the dialogue, when you're saying that, I want you to seduce them. So you're giving them something to do. Yeah. So like, I'm not going to give an example because damn, want me to seduce you? No, but my acting skills myself have long since fallen off. But I've found that a lot of actors really appreciate that sort of technique. Okay. And it allows them to do the work within themselves. So it's not just, and to be able to get to that point with an actor, they have to trust you. And the actor-director relationship is all about trust. And we talked about that in stunts earlier, but you think, oh, the actor's protected, you know, they're not going to break their arm or anything, but it's not about that. They're giving you
Emotionally
a
trusting.
part of them that,
Yeah.
they're really, making themselves vulnerable, and it's on camera
Yeah.
for the whole world to see.
Yeah.
Imagine, and you have imagined that because you do it, but that can never be taken back.
No.
Right? So they have to trust you that your opinion or that your guidance is taking them somewhere that they are protected also
Okay.
from the world.
Okay.
That you won't make them look
Yeah.
a certain way that makes them, I mean, they have to be willing to be uncomfortable. They have to be willing to be,
Open.
open.
Yeah.
Open.
Yeah.
They have to be open to they have to be willing to try things that they normally wouldn't, or that feel foreign to them, perhaps awkward.
Yeah.
But the result quite often is like fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. And some of what I've tried to do, well, it just happens if you work with actors, like you're on a series for years. You get to know them personally, and you get to know their children, and you get to know, what's going on in their personal lives and all that sort of thing. And with those people, you can bring in some of the personal aspects of their life. And that doesn't work for everybody, but for some people, like, that have children, and you can bring in little items like, what if this were, say, your son's name is Bob.
Yeah.
And what if this was Bob?
Yeah.
Or whatever. And oh fuck. Like, it really puts it into perspective for them, like, but you can't do, for some people that could be a trigger, or what have you. So you can't just throw those notes out left, right, and center.
Yeah.
But you know who you can do that with because you've got that relationship. With other people, you might just say, as I mentioned before, you might just give them a verb.
Yeah.
With some people, you use other language. It depends on the person, and you just have to really get to know your actor to know that. And it takes, sometimes when you're a guest director on a series, you may not, especially during this bullshit COVID time, you're not going out for dinner with the actors. You're not, you don't have that time to get to know what their likes and dislikes are. One of the things I do, if I have the time, I go to the sets and I try to meet the actors, and I'll ask them sometimes, can you please tell me what I'll do that right before set, if that's when you have a moment to speak with them. But I'll say, can you please describe your character in one word?
Okay.
And then you get in their head right away,
okay.
because it forces them to get in there.
Yeah.
And then it tells you something, when their reply tells you something about them.
Okay.
Also, it may or may not work for you as a director, but it works for me because I can feel, it's how they feel about the character. And again, if they've been playing that character for a substantial amount of time, then they know that character far better than you do. So you should be listening to them. You have to listen to your performance. I remember something as a stuntman very early on. There was some choreography, and it was, one of the things was I had to wear 501 jeans, which were super tight.
Jeans?
They were these Levi's, and they weren't stretchy material back then. They were these really stiff jeans. Yeah. And it was a fight scene where I had to kick really high. Yeah. And I was flexible, but not with these jeans on. Like, they were like skin tight, and cowboy boots, right? And I came from a karate school, bare feet, and you know, and wearing much looser pants, and also at the time I was training for a fight, a competition. Yeah. So I was very one-sided. Okay. I would really train my strengths, and just capitalize on them. Okay. And defend my weaknesses, essentially. Yeah. So my right leg was amazing at certain kicks, and my left leg was good, but it wasn't the same level as my right leg. And same thing with other techniques and whatnot. But I remember somebody asking me to do a certain kick that we had choreographed, this spinning hook kick or whatever it was. And they're like, okay, no, but I need you to do it with your left leg. And I was like, I can do it, but it's not as good. Like, it's just, it'll look like shit. It'll look, to my standards, I thought it'll just look like crap. You don't want me to do that. Let me just tell you right now. And they insisted. And since then, I've always, like, when I was a fight choreographer, I would ask, like, can you try this? Okay, that's not working. Can you show me what you're really good at with that arm or with that weapon or with that leg or whatever? Okay, cool. Let's do that because it's going to be natural. Sometimes you have to put performers in a position where it's uncomfortable for the camera because this angle you have to kick with this leg or whatever. But I prefer not to. It doesn't. It's unbecoming. It doesn't. It's dangerous also. Like, you're not as accurate with your left leg or that sort of thing. So the same thing goes with acting as well. You want that trust, but you also want the actors to be able to push themselves and do something that they normally probably wouldn't be comfortable with, and the result is like electric. You know, people are like, get this intense sense of gratification if you've accomplished something that you normally you've never done before. Which is dope. Like, so I like being able to bring those moments out in people. Or you don't bring those moments out in people, they do it themselves, but you help them get there. And that's, everybody's here as a performer, everybody's just doing their own thing no matter what anyway. You can't, they're not puppets, they're not robots, they're not marionettes. They're voluntarily, doing this job. But the level at which they perform is up to you to help, and some people you just like, it's great. It's a great day when I can just go, okay, here's the scene, here's the blocking. Can you just move to the left? Anything? But you always give them feedback after every take, because otherwise they're just hanging out there in the wind going, well, was that,
do you like that or not?
So I'm one of those directors who gives everybody, either if you're way back here like that was great, cool, or whatever, because people need to know. So they need to know if they need to change anything or whatever. But
it's amazing how many directors don't do that, because I've seen actors that are sitting there and I'm like the double and the actor's supposed to be beating me up, and they'll be doing something and I can see the frustration in their eyes because they're not getting anything from the director. And
happens a lot.
And then I'm like, that sucks because they're not getting the good job, or you're on the right track. And it's amazing.
Or anything.
And it's like, it sucks when when you're out there and you're not getting a feedback, you're like, okay, I'm not doing what you want. Then you start second guessing, and the camera picks that information up, right? That interruption.
You need to empower people with confirmation of yes, no, whatever, and at the same time, it depends. Everybody's different once again, and how to motivate. Different people are motivated by different things.
Yeah, because I've definitely heard you crack a joke and get a laugh, and then the performer we'll get right back to it, and then the fucking performance will be amazing, but it's like the understanding of the actor or whoever you're dealing with, the like execution of a joke, and then people are laughing, and then the actor like gets a sec, and then he gets into it again. It's like, I love watching little interactions like that between like directors and performers, because it's like you weren't like you weren't like a complete asshole to them, but you said something that made them laugh enough that they got outside themselves for a second, and then they were able to go back in.
They have to be able to relax.
And
be happy for a second and not get all like, because
this is play, like you were saying earlier, like this is supposed to be play, and once somebody can reintroduce that play, I think that's why it makes you successful at doing what you do, and like that's why people like working with you. And I'm not just saying that to kiss your ass, man. I'm just saying people genuinely like to work with you, right? Like that's just like anyone I talk with, it's like they know the shoot day is going to be shorter on an action day if you're on, because you know what you want, you know how to work with everyone. And also I feel like now talking to you more that they're like there's a certain level of empathy you need in order to be able to sit and hold a space for somebody, and then allow them to do their performance and let them feel safe.
See what happened back there?
Yeah, but and letting them feel safe. So I think that it's I'm slowly starting to piece together about why you're successful at what you do, and there's a level of empathy needed for that, right? Like even when you were saying when you there were certain parts with an actor and you get emotional, and like that means that I fucking hate using the word empath. Like, people are like, I'm an empath. I feel. It's like, of course you do. You're human. You should fucking feel. But I feel like there's a certain level of sensitivity and empathy with artists that lets them tap into that place of story and,
Not all.
Yeah.
Funny enough, just like there's different types of stunt performers, there's different types of directors, and not every director wants anything to do with the cinematography. They talk to the actors only, and then they let the DP set the shots up. They don't have any
say.
Ask about some of them just don't want any say.
Okay.
Some of them are about performance only with the actors. Some directors are petrified of actors. They want nothing to do with the actors. Because actors are the wild card. They may ask me a question.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
And then
they might bring an idea.
what if I can't answer it?
Yeah.
So I find a fair amount of directors are afraid of working with actors.
Yeah, I can see that.
And they're just not people. People.
Yeah.
So it's they're intimidated by that experience. So it's different, and some everybody's got their own way, and different directors come from different walks of life. They could have been an editor, or they maybe were a stunt performer, maybe they were costume designer. You don't know, they could have been anything. And I've met directors from all angles.
Yeah.
So and everybody handles things a little differently. Script supervisors, who are directors, and then those people, just because they were an editor, doesn't mean they're going to direct like an editor.
Yeah.
They were they're a person. They're a different person than that editor who is also a director.
Yeah.
So, you just never know who's going to be what, or, who's going to handle the position. It's different for everybody.
Is there any advice you'd give to any up-and-coming anyone that wants to follow suit in eventually with the goal of being a director? Do you have any advice for anyone coming into the industry as like a stunt performer with an eye of being a director one day?
Yeah. Pay attention to the directors when you're on set. Watch, listen, learn, ask questions, shoot and edit your stuff. Shoot and edit not only fight sequences, but if you want to be a director, like a all-encompassing director, not just an action director.
Yeah.
Shoot and edit your fight sequences, but include the dialogue in the scenes, and try to, which can be funny sometimes, try to direct your stunt performers within the dialogue and the emoting and whatnot. And one of the, and I had done this early on in life, but one of the best things you can do if you want to work with actors as a director is train as an actor. Take an acting course. Try it yourself. Then, from an empath perspective, you know what they're going through. You know, everybody's like, all you got to do is say some words and blah blah blah. It's not that easy. So, looking at it from the perspective of the person you're working with is always helpful.
Okay.
And everybody's guilty of completely being in your own bubble and not empathizing with those around you because you may have too many things going on.
Yeah.
And, nobody knows what's going on in somebody else's head unless they communicate it to you. And then usually it's only half of what's really going on in there or what have you, right?
Yeah.
But, understanding those around you is a big part of it. So just, try to have a great understanding of other people's jobs. Some of the people who have gone through the sort of mentorship program through Warner Brothers Directors Workshop, and then come and shadowed me, spent time with me during prep and shooting and whatnot. What I usually ask them to do if they're shadowing me as part of that is go around to all the heads of the departments and interview them and ask them a few questions, one of them being, what makes a good director to you? Or what makes a great director to you? From a costume designer's perspective, from the sound mixer's perspective, from the makeup artist's perspective.
Okay.
And all the answers will be completely different.
Okay.
So that's something that I think most of the people who've spent time with me have found useful. I did that myself. When I started shadowing and I was, going to direct, I found it really important to talk to all the different people and get their viewpoint on it, because you have to work with all these people. You have to provide answers for the costume designer, for everyone.
Yeah.
So including the actors.
Yeah.
So I did the same thing. I went to the actors. What makes a great director? And it depends from actor to actor, but it's interesting what those answers are. Really, really interesting what those answers are. And you'd think that they'd be different coming from certain people or certain perspectives, and they come up with this wild stuff, like what's the most important quality of a director, or things like that.
Yeah. So just checking in with all the department heads and kind of picking their brain about what their ideal director would be.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm gonna start doing that.
Yeah. No, it's.
I'm gonna start doing that. Because I definitely, the first one I like, just any directors, like I am no further than maybe 10, 12 feet from the director, and just watching and listening and kind of.
But more than 6.
Yeah, more than 6. I'm more than 6 feet away. I'm in a COVID testing pool. Don't worry, people.
Me too.
Yeah. But and also currently film is kind of, in the 30s and 40s, Hollywood kind of took the reins and wrote the book on studio movies. Paramount, Warner Brothers, 30s and 40s had in-house mechanics fabricating cameras because they didn't have they were creating the equipment they needed. So a few decades they spent the time polishing and creating the studio look. Now in 2020 we're in a time where with my iPhone I can make a movie if the story is compelling enough. It's the power is decentralized, to say. Like you don't have to go to the gatekeepers the way you used to in Hollywood, right?
There's options.
Yeah, there's options now. No, like it's still, you can still go through the gatekeepers in Hollywood, but now there's enough streaming services, there's enough tools and lessons out there. Now, do you think that because of that, stories are getting better, or because there's not the same standard that the quality is dipping?
Well,
so is there more stuff out, but not as good?
Yes. Excellent question, but the answer is yes to both. Okay. One of the first questions I asked when I wanted to start directing full-time was, what are the rules? What makes you a director? What don't you do and what do you do? Creatively, the answer is there are no rules. I mean, there's specifics to storytelling and a specific flow to a script and whatnot, and a structure.
Yeah.
And there's technicalities with a camera,
yeah.
With sound, which are continually developing and improving and, changing and whatnot. But when you're speaking from a creative perspective, there aren't any rules. So again, it comes down to opinion. For instance, you mentioned Moonlight earlier, which I loved. When it first came out, I thought it was fantastic. It was really different and compelling and just a great story. And I loved the different timelines and the only thing out there though, like somebody else might think is crap. Yeah. So it's really perspective. Yeah. But in the industry, it's also a business. So it depends how many people think it's crap. Yeah. And that matters. Yeah. If you want to make a living at it. So you have to have a sensibility that contains a certain amount of commercial,
Liability?
So within that, there's some rules that come with it, and it varies from studio to studio, from showrunner to showrunner. Some people don't like the color blue. Some people, whatever it is, you name it. There's somebody who, well, on my show, it's got to be like this. We don't do that, or whatever. So we don't like, wide lenses. We don't like anamorphic. We don't like, we like this, and that. I've been fortunate enough to work with some of the people who have mentored me and brought me up in as a director, the showrunners from Arrow and otherwise that have valued my sensibilities and quite often just go, well, just do what you think is cool, do your thing, man, and and it's yours. Go for it. We'll tweak whatever we want to tweak, after the fact or whatever. We prefer if you don't do this or that, but go for it. And particular showrunner I'm working with right now on it's a newer show, and he's they're shooting the pilot or just finishing the pilot right now, and we've met and we're prepping and such. And the pilot director has pre-establishing certain things, lenses and whatnot, but at the same time, it's not a hard and fast rule. Well, the look of the show is a hard and fast rule, but also creatively, I'm being told to, make your own movie. Like your episode is your own movie. Yeah. Yes, we're doing this, we're doing that, but outside of these, A, B, and C things, do your thing. That's why we hired you, which is really cool. And then you become more than a collector of digital media, which is like yeah, anybody could do that. Yeah. Anybody could go, okay, just point the cameras over there and go. Yeah. Okay, turn the cameras around and go. Yeah. There's no there's no creative energy to that. Yeah. It becomes very robotic. It becomes very,
cold and factory almost.
A to Z, super factory. Yeah. And, who wants to just continually be formula all the time? Yes, a certain formula works for this studio or that studio, but at the same time, it's your job to help that studio stay on its feet and sell their product. And you want the product to be continually inspiring, and you have to inspire yourself when you're out there. You have to find ways to continually inspire yourself. If you're not inspired, you don't want to go to work. What's the fucking point? Yeah, why like even as a fight choreographer. Yeah. Okay, let's try something. You're in season 5 of a show. Yeah. What else can we do? We've done everything. Yeah. And, at a certain point, not at a certain point, right at the beginning, a punch is a punch, a kick is a kick. Yeah. The human body has 2 legs, 2 arms. Well, not every human body, but, you people are different and whatnot. Everybody's an individual, but the basic design of the human body is 2 arms and 2 legs, a head, 2 eyes, all the things. Yeah. When it comes to combat and fight choreography, those are the tools you got to work with. So, what Jackie Chan did back in the day was he started looking at his environment.
Yeah.
What else can I bring to the table?
Yeah.
Oh, this, whatever it is. And so you have to continually challenge yourself and re-inspire yourself and step out of your comfort zone to try and stretch and like, oh, I've never tried this before. It might not work.
Yeah.
It might be shit,
Yeah.
But you got to try that sort of stuff.
It must be hard though when you have to do it and follow a commercial success at the same time, because you have to take risks, but you can't take too big of a risk, right? Because there's a canon there with like a show like Arrow, let's say.
Yeah, we tried everything under the sun that we could.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I liked it over there.
Because you could just go and do.
We just tried. There was a certain, I don't want to say formula, but there was a certain expected, aesthetic and whatnot. But within that, we had different characters. We had different seasons. We had different, people came from different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And, you wanted to try and apply different gadgets, different whatever.
Yeah.
Things that suited different characters' personalities and different stories. And if you just do the same shit all the time, it's not only boring to you, it's boring to the audience. It's, so again, you have to re-inspire yourself. And what's great is if you work with really talented writers who are very open also. And they're like, let's try this. And writers will come up with all sorts of stuff that they're like, I don't know, can we do this? Yeah. I don't know, check this out. And then it's up to you to make it come true, and facilitate that, the writer's vision. And the writers can, on the page, you could come up with anything.
Yeah.
And physically, is it possible? Sure, anything's possible, and that's what we always try to say, because you can accomplish in this day and age with, visual effects and wire work and you name it, we can do anything. Yeah. But is there time and money? And the one equates the other.
Yeah.
So there isn't always those things. So I can give you a version. I can give you the A, B, C, D, and the Z version, which is this. But if you give me 1 hour to do it, you're going to get this. If you give me 2 weeks to do it, you're going to get this. Which one do you want? Sort of thing. Yeah. Or sometimes, no, that's impossible because
we just can't do that.
With $5 and 5 minutes, I can't get it close to what he just asked for.
It's funny sometimes on the scripts, you like if it's a previs and you could tell like whoever's writing it just doesn't fight or do any martial arts. So he does
that does happen.
A karate throw, and I was like, what's a karate throw?
What's a karate throw? That happens a lot. Yeah. But you can't blame the.
Oh yeah, it's just funny.
Right, it's just there.
You have to translate it almost to what you think they're saying. It's
yeah.
Like, oh, this is
exactly. Like they're just like they just want something cool. And they're trusting the stunt coordinator or whoever's hired in that position that they will interpret. What they they're just like, I don't know. It's a fight. Yeah. Make it a fight. Yeah. So,
somebody gets stabbed.
Yeah. Like they don't care if it's, I had somebody, I remember a script somebody was years ago, just obsessed with Krav Maga because it, became popular for a second. So that was in every script they wrote, anything they did was a Krav Maga punch, or whatever. I'm like, it's a punch.
Yeah. Krav Maga punch.
Yeah. It's just like, it had to be that. Okay. It's a mishmash of several different martial arts, just so you know, in the first place. But cool. Yeah. We'll make it that. You don't even know what the difference between that and this punch, but we'll give you that punch.
Here's your Krav Maga punch.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Right? It's good, right? Oh, yeah. It's exactly what. Yeah. Well, that was a Jeet Kune Do punch or whatever, but cool. It kind
of reminds me of the story of Michelangelo got hired to carve out the statue of David from the Pope, I believe. Pope, whoever was the Pope at that time. and the Pope didn't like
Pope Don Juan.
Pope Don Juan, for all those historians out there. The Pope wasn't stoked on the David's nose, right? And he's like, I think it's too big. And Michelangelo, being the fucking Kanye of his time, was like, this motherfucker doesn't know what he's talking about. So what he did was he went up to the nose with some dust in his hand and pretended to chip away and blew away some dust. And then the Pope was looking at it. He's like, see, it looks a lot better now. And he didn't do anything. And then he was like...
That happened. I've seen that happen so much. I've seen that happen so many times. See?
Yeah.
And then oh, look at what a great idea.
Yeah.
That's I've seen people do. I don't do that. If people insist on a change or what have you, I'll be honest and go, okay, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Here it is. Oh, actually, I don't like that. Okay, no. Cool. Yeah. Sometimes people just want to see, their thoughts. What's things just don't look the way they visualize in their head.
Yeah.
Once they see it in real life, well, here's what you wanted.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No,
I
was
cool.
wrong.
Yeah, it doesn't look cool, is it?
Or dope, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, it's weird. Visualization. What's going on in here is everybody doesn't think. Quite a few people don't. Writers, for instance, some of them think a certain way.
Yeah.
Their thought process is this way, and others they're this way, and they're not martial artists, or they're not. But some of them are. Yeah. If like Michael Jai White's writing a script, he's putting in a spinning hook kick, blah. He's being very technologically correct. And everything else, and others are just like, and they fight.
Yeah.
They leave it to the people who do that, and it doesn't, one's not better than the other. It's just something is interesting script-wise, or on that subject. I worked for a showrunner back in the day, J. Michael Straczynski. I think he did Babylon 5 before that, but worked on the show called Jeremiah way back in the day. Luke Perry and Malcolm Jamal Warner on the show. And Straczynski was one of the first showrunners. He said, you should... I started doing previs on that show, and that was like 1997 or something like that. I was shooting my fight rehearsals. And back then I had Luke Perry on set with me, so I shot him in my rehearsals.
Nice.
Because he would come out, he was one of us. He might as well have been a stunt guy.
Fuck yeah.
I lit him on fire one time. He would do anything. He was awesome.
Cool.
And amazing. I miss him a lot. But I promise I won't cry. But I would do the previs with him in it, and then edit it and present it, and the showrunners really appreciated that, and it was one of the first times I was told, you should go in the editing room before the director, which isn't allowed now, and edit the action for them and assemble it and help, which was really cool, and I learned a lot and was given a lot of responsibility back then, and we had editing on site, and the guys didn't mind, like the editors were cool, and we had a great relationship, and it was really a cool thing back then. But script-wise, throughout that process, the same showrunner, he said, you know what, I think you would really appreciate this, and he worked very closely with the Wachowski at the time brothers, but he and they had written The Matrix. And now I think they all together later on went and did Sense8 together on Netflix.
Nice.
And he gave me a copy of the original Matrix script that they had given to him. Yeah. And if you want to say like visual, like their vision, they directed it also. So they wrote it, they directed it, they had total control over what you see in the action description on the page is identical to what's in the movie. Most of the time. Yeah. They designed that. That's filmmaking. Like
that's actually one of the scripts I study, and that was like you can point from point of in the opening, and it's like,
it's so cool. And that was like, he was like, I think you'll really appreciate this, and I was just like, I
can't even imagine reading the original Matrix. Is like,
here's the bad part of this story.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is right now.
Oh!
I've moved one too many times, and
So this is like an original
I can't-
copy of the Matrix script just sitting around somewhere.
I can't find it. Yeah,
Well, let's hope.
it's somewhere.
How long ago did I'm assuming this? Well, this is Matrix, so you lost this.
It was back in the late 90s, in early
Fuck,
2000s.
I'm just curious where that script is sitting now, man.
That's what
There's
I'm saying.
There's some.
That's what I'm saying.
Like-
It's in my storage somewhere or something. It's got to be. But, you know, through the years I've gotten broken into and all sorts of things. So the same with if you...
Some dude on
remember-
Hastings just reading it.
Oh, yeah. This is cool.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. But this, I also had a copy of Hard Boiled given to me by John Woo.
Oh shit.
Signed.
Hard Boiled.
Hard Boiled and The Killer. Both of those VHS boxes. I don't know where those are either. And the original Highlander movie.
Oh my God. All
I worked with
classics.
that director, Russell Mulcahy, and I second unit directed for him on the pilot of Jeremiah. And he gave me an original Highlander, you know, VHS. And
Highlander was me and my older brother's favorite movie growing up. That's me with a big ass head. Well, I guess we both got big ass heads.
that's a big ass head.
Yeah.
What happened? It shrank.
No, my face grew. That's what happened.
Oh, your head just...
The rest of my face grew down and met my head.
That's fortunate.
Anyone that hasn't seen Hard Boiled and is an action fan, you should check out Hard Boiled. That was like
It's a
OG action. I would say kind of if in like the John Wick genre of action. I would say probably inspired by.
It was a benchmark for
A
gunfight.
Yeah, gunfight.
Stuff.
Like yeah, incredible, man.
Still is. They've done some things. I mean, some of the things are way over the top and whatnot, but everything's practical.
Yeah.
There was zero visual effects, so they're using blanks and then point blank. They're doing all sorts of things that are incredibly dangerous that we wouldn't do now.
Yeah.
But so well, and the stunt guys in that movie are just killing themselves.
Yeah.
And the squibs and the special effects and
It's
the
kinetic.
explosions.
Like you're watching that movie and you just the hits feel like hits. The smoke. Everything feels so atmospherical. Like
so layered and textured, and it's
Yeah.
you can feel it and
Yeah.
smell it, and you know it's like it gets in you. It's so classic. And
Yeah.
Chow Yun Fat was so good, and that's it. I mean, one of the things that inspired me to become a director was watching those films. Like
Yeah.
I was when I grew up, my mom worked in for a cablevision company, and so we had like all these access to satellite to all these international films, and I was drawn to Jackie Chan, like Snake and an Eagle's Shadow, all this old school kung fu movies.
Yeah.
I was watching when I was a little kid,
Yeah.
and Hard Boiled and The Killer, and you know all this stuff. So I was really affected by that stuff. Jackie's work alone changed my life, you know. And I think I've told you before, but you know, in the beginning, my two heroes growing up were Bruce Lee and Muhammad Ali for different reasons, but and some of the same reasons, both of them.
yeah.
But watching them, you know, even Muhammad Ali in the ring and just in life and as an activist and essentially a politician, not wanting to be a politician,
Yeah.
but as we were discussing earlier.
Yeah.
But somehow that led me to the film industry as well. I don't know, because he wasn't an actor and had really not that much. He was a performer.
I think he was a performer. I think
Yeah.
it was that swagger he had, right? Like that. If he could have gone into film, like that's the swagger of like.
He played himself in
Yeah.
the movie, right?
Yeah. Of his own.
Have you seen that movie?
No, where he played himself, like
Yeah.
just him as Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because he's playing himself, but he's better living and being himself than he was playing himself, sort of thing. You know?
I could see that.
Yeah, I don't think he was really much of an actor, but he's definitely a performer.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No,
But,
yeah, totally. And
Yeah.
but I think the arena of sports, athletics, it's like you do that level, it's a performance. You have the stage, which is the world, and every camera is on you.
You're up there by yourself.
Yeah, and
Like-
and it's amazing. Same with Bruce Lee, because Bruce Lee, from a kid, like people don't know this, but he was a dancer before he was a martial artist.
He was the cha-cha champion of Hong Kong.
Yeah, and his father was in the industry as a performer and actor.
He was an actor, yeah.
Yeah, and Jackie Chan, I think, got his first credit when he was like a few months old as a baby or something like that. Or
He was a stuntman when he was a teenager.
Yeah, like he was, and a lot of people don't know. They think that he was a martial artist brought into action, but he was a performer from the beginning. He was just an exceptional human. That anything when he got into martial arts, he didn't just do martial arts. He created his own.
He was in a performance-based opera school, though, where it was like sink or swim. So he was like beaten, literally, by his masters. Like their head instructors would beat them in that school. Oh. So Sammo Hung was a big brother in the school. Jackie Chan.
Oh, so he attended. That's not Peking House, though, is it?
It's either Peking Opera or
Peking Opera, yeah.
Or Beijing Opera. I can't remember, and I should know this.
Yeah.
But one of the things they'd have to do a handstand on a stool, and if they started to fall over, they'd get hit with a stick. Like they would, like they didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
But to be good.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to them if they just couldn't do it. So it was very abusive. You certainly wouldn't get away with that today. Not that but as a byproduct, he became this incredible machine and so creative. And
only until 32. Like that's, I was looking at him, and then his age popped up, and I was like, Bruce Lee was only 32 when he died.
Sorry, I was talking about Jackie, but
sorry, sorry,
different. But Bruce, Bruce hadn't completely, although he was
because Bruce
all
Lee
over the world. But
did he attend those schools?
No, he went a different route.
He went a different route. Right?
He was he was out on the street, getting in fights and dancing, and he was doing Wing Chun separately, and he was doing some more traditional kung fu, but he wasn't doing what Jackie was. Jackie was like, it was a boarding school, like essentially your parents go, here's my kid, I forget how old he was. He was really young, though. Like a child, like 6 or 7 or...
Yeah, I think because his parents weren't rich enough, so they put him in the boarding school. I can't remember how it worked. And then he was out when he was 17. He actually, with the day he was supposed to be getting out, he wore 2 pair of pants because he knew he was going to get beaten because he was like his last...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he wore 2 pair of jeans just to mask. And then he said, it's funny when it's like the
so
first...
it wouldn't hurt as much.
Yeah, but he said the master was like, oh, whatever. Good job, go on. And he was like, okay. It's like, you're not going to beat me.
Yeah, and they would lend the kids out to film productions, and then the school would get the money, sort of thing back then. Yeah, it was not fair, but what a great training ground as far as he was bulletproof,
Yeah, like you come out of that.
Came out of there. And then he went on to... but he was very creative, which was great as well. He really was into choreography, and he was one of the first, guys that came up with the concept of the team, because he kept the same guys around him for years and years and years and years because they knew his every move, because they could anticipate what he wanted, and they made him look good, and they just worked cohesively together. I was lucky enough to have... I went to Thailand to do some training, Muay Thai training a few years back, 4 or 5 years ago, and went to Thailand to go into camp and train 6 days a week. But on the way, I stopped in Hong Kong to visit our friend, one of our actors, Selena Jade from Arrow, and she had just done a movie with Tony Jaa, and they were friends, and he was in Hong Kong doing another film, so he came over for dinner, and we hung out, and then he invited us to his fight rehearsals. It was with Wu Jing. I think the movie was SPL 2, And we went down to the fight rehearsals and whatnot, and there was, Tony Jaa, but there was all or a lot of Jackie Chan's stunt team were the stunt team on, like, his original guys on this in this rehearsal. And everybody's smoking, and in this rehearsal, and here, you're not allowed.
Yeah.
But everybody's smoking, and one of them, Tony, who, if you know Drunken Master 2, the guy with the kick.
Yeah.
He comes up to me, hands me a cigar, and he's like, so I stepped outside out in the rain, and it's because I didn't feel right. He's like, come on in, like, there's light, like there's all like this smoky.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I was just like mesmerized by these guys because they were these guys.
Yeah.
They were like legends, in the stunt world, and
yeah, those are the guys that like help shape action.
Yeah.
Like those are, because like film isn't that old. Like cinema isn't that old. So like we're, like the first edit was a mistake in France. They had like they would just be like the camera operator would just pop up a camera and they would just shoot something for like 13 minutes.
Forever.
Yeah. So one of them was a train, and I remember one of the first stories of a circus where they exhibited this moving pictures, and people were ducking because they thought this train was
coming right up.
Yeah. This was like 100 years ago, and like from that to currently, where we were talking about people using VR to create specs for movie like buildings, like like designing, like technology and art in film is just gone to a place now where I don't even, if you went back to the 20s and 30s and told them like what talkies are going to be like, what they used to call movies.
Yeah.
They're like, but so do you think like it feels like we're in a film renaissance almost, where it's like there's enough art and film coming out. It's not just these, because back in the day a machine was like 80 pounds with film, like it wasn't easily accessible as like these camera setups are. So like earlier when I was asking you if you felt that movies, there's more of them, but the quality wasn't as much. Do you also kind of feel like we're in a renaissance right now, where as artists you can just say what you want? Not about it being good or bad, but
whatever your statement is.
Statement is.
Yeah, I think it's been that for a long time, though.
Okay.
I mean, look at the 70s. Look at... Film has gone through so many different incarnations, and it's always been a statement, just has access to the cameras, or what have you. Nowadays, everybody's got access. Everybody's got a phone. Everybody's look at Instagram. Look at everybody's got an opinion. Look at Twitter. Everybody's you're on there. If you're putting yourself out there, there's like millions of people who will jump on you if they don't like your your opinion or whatever.
That's the worst piece of shit I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's so. Is there a lot more content out there? Yes, there's so much more. Is there a lot more not good content out there? Yeah, of course there is, because there's just more people have access to it, and you don't exactly. And as I said before, it's whatever you're making a film, you're making a TV show, whatever you're making, a 5-second short, whatever it is, it's your opinion that you're sharing with people out there, and it's great because everybody has the opportunity to have a voice and have an opinion. But do you want to hear everybody's opinion? Nah. No. Some people are offended by other people's opinions. Some people are just like bored by other people's opinions, and some people just don't give a shit one way or the other. So it's all opinion. It's like having a conversation with somebody. You don't. You may not be interested in what that person is talking about or whatever. It's just you. You're not interested. So there's definitely a lot more out there, just given the nature of having the internet, and it's like anybody can go.
Anyone.
My 6-year-old can, and she does quite often. She doesn't get on the internet because we don't, except for school things. But I don't allow her to just like randomly film herself, but she films herself all the time. and makes little movies, and it's great. I mean, it's fun for her. Do we want it out there in the world?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Yeah.
She can decide that when she's, an adult, and she can control her image and whatever she wants. But there's also a lot of people out there who, you don't want access to.
No.
And
especially in a time when it's just everything is so easily accessible. That you don't want everything to be easily accessible.
I think everything's a little too easily accessible. And there's freedom of speech and everything else, but some speech should just not be out there. There's people who are out there trying to hurt other people's feelings and hurt other people physically. And do I want to hear their shit? Yeah, I want to be warned about, possibility of that person knocking on my door one day, or I know that they're in our proximity and such, but do I need to hear their opinion? No. There's if people want to be out there trying to hurt people for no good reason,
you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
That's just on my part.
Like it's something that you learn with it takes some people a long time to learn with age, or not just be kind to the rest of the people out there until it's time not to be. And
until it's time to put the savage cloak on.
Until it's time to deal with business. But other than that, like.
Also, I gotta say, Bam, I gotta really appreciate when the whole situation was happening with George Floyd, how vocal and open you were about support, and I just have to say thank you. It's kind of hard. I've just grown up having to deal with race, and every person has a different. Everyone's dealt with shit, Everyone. I like the way I try to put it together is that. Let's say we're all born in a different movie theater and I never watched your movie. I can't get angry at you because I never watched your movie. I never got to see you or...
That's a really interesting analogy.
Yeah, so I can't...
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I can't get mad at people because they never watched my movie of being a Afro-Canadian immigrant having to deal with racism and all those. But the fact that the platform you have and the way you used it, respect.
Thanks.
And I have to say, because there are some people I grew up with that I respected and were mentors that hold positions in certain groups that should have done that, they didn't. And so for you to do that and take it upon yourself, man, just out of this conversation, thank you, man. It means a lot just to get the acknowledgement. And
I just say what I'm thinking. So, but I grew up maybe a little differently.
And I respect that because a lot of people decided to keep quiet, and I'm like, well, I don't want to add to the noise, but the fact that you were openly and willing just to, and because of the position you hold and for you to do that, man, like that, it brings respect. There's a lot of respect for you for that.
It was just to. Like I said, I think I grew up a little differently than a lot of people in where I grew in, even in the place I grew up.
Yeah.
And I grew up with this really open, everybody's a human being, and and all that kind of thing. I didn't really see or be exposed to real racism until I saw a film. I think it was. Forget what it was. Mississippi Burning was one of them.
Eric, the little kid. One of the movies that fucked me up as a kid.
Yeah. It was like, what the? And I was asking, I was to my parents, like, is that real?
Yeah.
That can't. No. Obviously it was around, but as a kid I didn't know it. I didn't realize it, and so when in this day and age, one of the good things about what we were just talking about, which is accessibility and the internet and everybody has a voice and all that.
Yeah.
We just talked about the bad things, but one of the good things is that happened.
Yeah.
And back in the day when there's always been activism. There's always been protests. It's been going on forever.
Yeah.
You know, there's rioting and you know and unrest and such. But now that I think it had something to do with COVID and people being on lockdown and people weren't working and everybody's paying attention.
Yeah.
So it was a timing issue as well, but...
And also no one was safe. Like, there weren't any groups of people that felt like they were okay. Everyone...
Exactly. We all felt like we're all in the same boat for once.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, we're all going to die when this thing first came. We didn't know what was going to happen. I was like looking outside the window going like... Oh, I wonder if I open the window, if some COVID will float by the window and like get in our place. Oh my God!
2 gloves to the grocery stores. I'm like,
oh yeah, you should see me walking down the street to Choices.
Yeah,
I looked like the knight with shining armor kind of thing.
Yeah,
and but yeah, so I think it got everybody's attention. And when I saw it, I'm always on Instagram checking out that's what you do, and you killing time.
Yeah.
And I saw before that, I saw the one in Atlanta that happened, the shooting.
Yeah.
And that didn't seem like very much time elapsed.
No, I think it was a few weeks, 6-7 weeks maybe.
Yeah, and I saw that and I'm like, what the because there's not a lot of shootings here in Canada or where we are anyway, in the news, and it's not something you see all the time. So you see that and you're like, what the fuck? And then that started, and then I was like, come on, like, how did these guys think they were going to get away with this?
Yeah. And
then the George Floyd thing happened, and I was like, the cop was blatantly just sitting. He's being filmed. And he's sitting there with his knee on the back of his neck. Now, when you do a takedown, I was a juvenile corrections officer. You take somebody down, you have to restrain them to control them so that they don't hurt themselves or other people. It should only last a second until things are under control, and you're supposed to be protecting them from harming themselves, and or you and or somebody else. Now, the shin in the back of the neck thing is like it's a common technique, but to sit there
8 minutes
on somebody, it should only be a couple seconds while you're cuffing them or whatever the hell they're supposed to be doing. And I still don't understand what was going on in that whole scenario, but and I always try to look at all aspects. They're doing a job because I was in the position doing a job before, so I try to understand. Yeah. But there was just no fucking understanding what was going on there, other than that guy was trying to kill that motherfucker. Yeah. Like he was just blatantly kneeling on the back of that man's neck and didn't give a shit. Yeah. And the look on his face was just like a rope, just nothing. Yeah, and then I think he was smiling, like at certain points. Yeah. So that was just, I just couldn't be silent about it at the time. But
I really appreciate you not being silent, man.
I've just always been vocal anyway. In fact, it's a flaw.
No, maybe, man. No.
if you will.
That's some king shit, man. That's like I highly respect. I highly respect that, man. And I think a lot of your success and who you are and why people fucking adore you or like working with you
or hate you.
But fuck those guys who hate you though, right?
Yes.
That's that's the other beauty about getting older is you start learning that sometimes fuck them, that's
fuck them.
Okay. One of my favorite quotes one of my favorite conceptual ideas I've ever heard came from Will Smith when he was talking about cinema. He said that, there was a time, 200,000 years ago, modern human would be around the fire, around this light. And
I thought it was parents just don't understand. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and my parents just didn't understand. But he would say that back then we would gather around a fire and tell stories. But that transferred into technology where now the light is telling us the story. So we, instead of us sitting around and audibly telling us, we went from being around a fire, around light, telling stories, to the fire and the light telling us stories. So it seems like we're
You mean a TV?
Yeah, in a TV. In a TV.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it seems like we've always been intertwined with light and story. It just seems to be a way we grow, learn, and progress. It's the way you learned about racism when you were a kid. It's kind of the way I learned about it's. I knew I was aware of racism as a child, but when I watched Mississippi Burning, I'll never forget the kid's name, because his name was Eric too. So I remember, because I was around the same age as this kid, and I remember they killed his father or something. And I remember as a kid being like, and at that time we lived in Sweden. So one of my experiences in Sweden were like my old lady spitting at my mom in the grocery store, you know? And so when you're a kid,
Really?
we just moved to Sweden. Frozen aisle section, I'll never forget it, because I'm walking with my mom and I'm in the inside towards I'm about 7, and I'm in the inside of the frozen aisle section. And we're walking, and they're walking down this way, and I hear but I didn't see, I just heard the spit, and then my mom is cleaning her face, right? So I grab the frozen carrots, and I'm about to whoop them at this old lady, right? I'm 7, I'm like, fuck you, bitch, what are you doing? This is queen right here. So I grab him, and my mom grabs my hand and corrects me. And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking around, and everyone was okay with this. And I remember I was talking to one of my mentors, because we were having an argument, because it was the idea about what privilege is. And he was like, and I told him this story, and he was like, well, Eric, there's just bad people everywhere. He's like, that's not the issue. The issue wasn't the act of the old lady. The issue was how okay everyone around was with it, and that I got reprimanded. So as a kid, I learned in the system, my skin color, I'm not allowed to say or do anything. I can't speak for myself. Even my own mom is telling me not to do that. So that's why I say when I get older that I respect when I see people in positions of power taking it upon themselves to say something. Because not everyone gets the voice or the opportunity to. And I think that more people that are in places of power, it is their given right to do that. And one of the reasons that I even want to get into film and get unclimbed is to get back to fucking Africa and give those kids opportunities, because I didn't get those growing up. And so it's like, that's why when I saw how vocal you were on the internet, I was like, yes, Bam. Yes, way to use your platform, because it's like, it's so discouraging to feel crazy when you're like, no, but there is something different with this system. The rules are different.
I can't pretend to understand or be. I mean, also, the United States is its own.
Oh God, yeah.
Thing.
Yeah.
But we've got our own things here too. I mean, the indigenous. Issues that
just ignored.
They've been plagued by the government and people since day one, since the colonizing situation, and that's been more brought to light, over the years, but it's still an issue. There's intergenerational trauma. The residential school system, and that is a horrible thing that should never have happened, and there's people who are still paying for it today, emotionally and physically. So it's I saw a lot more of that, although I didn't know what a residential school was realistically until I was in my teens, I think, because they just didn't teach us that in school.
No.
They taught us whatever you learned in social studies, and there wasn't a very and on the other hand, as I said, with African American, the racial tension, there wasn't a large African American population in Victoria or Vancouver.
We were like one of 3 families when I first moved to Victoria, and I actually just did a video because, like, as an immigrant, like Vancouver Island, thanks again for fucking raising me. I already gave you guys a shout out, but like, thank you, Victoria, for raising me, because, man, coming from Sweden, like, if I still lived there, I would not even be here talking to this fucking this Don Juan right here. So Victoria, thank you.
It was a great place to grow up.
Yeah, Victoria was a great place to grow up, and
I loved it. I loved being a kid there.
Yeah,
it
right?
was cool.
Yeah.
There was in my elementary school. There was one black girl in my school.
Yeah.
I think my elementary school. I think her name was Fiona. And her sister's name was Marcia.
Yeah.
I think this was in elementary school. That was it. And then they moved away, I think, and then not again until high school. And then again in my high school there was one kid. He was in my grade, and we were good friends. And he was adopted.
Yeah.
So and his family was white,
Cool.
but he was the only African American kid, Tom Johnson, and so we didn't see a lot of that except for on film, where it was portrayed, and usually something to do with the Deep South and that situation, and although
the biannual slave movie,
right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it was everywhere.
Yeah.
It was in LA and it was in New York. And
Yeah.
It was everywhere. It wasn't just in the Deep South, but
Yeah.
that's where the sort of standard
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And that's how we learned about it, kind of thing, until you left the island and went somewhere and actually heard. And since then, I've traveled around and heard and seen lots of things that I wish I didn't,
Yeah.
But it opens your eyes to other people's experiences. It's the empath thing. It opens your eyes to other people's experiences and
how people live.
Yeah, and in the end, we're all humans, and there's controversy about the way people discuss race and color and all that, and some people say I don't see color, and other people say and all that.
Like, I think that's a level, like if somebody says I was like, well, I'm happy you had the fucking choice.
Yeah,
but that doesn't make you
Exactly.
an angel. Like it's not like we shouldn't ignore the dialogue, the conversation. Like I was saying earlier, like we all watched different movies. It's hard. I can't. And like it's like I will never in my life try to explain or beat over somebody's head. You have no idea what it's like. Because that's yeah, but like there's no end to that. Like that's me feeling good just on the basis of getting my cortisol up and arguing with you, but there's no finding
there's no end to the conversation.
Yeah,
there's no resolving it that way, but what we all have to try to do, what I've tried to do even more as I get older, and we've all screwed up, we've all said stupid things, and we've all said the wrong thing, we've all stepped on our own toes, and not necessarily with the intent to hurt anybody, but just being young and whatever, and not getting it. But I think the important part is just acknowledging other people's experience, and like, you don't know what I've been through, I can say that, you don't know what I've been through. You didn't grow up where I grew up either. Go fuck yourself, but that's the thing. We don't know. What I don't know, but you just told me. A little piece of that, and that what you just said about this woman spitting on your mom, and holy fuck, like that's horrible, and that's a horrible story. And the fact that you weren't able to wing that soup can at that person is even more horrible, because they deserved it.
I never remember, and I know she's dead now, thank God. That's right, I don't know who this random lady is. But I'm sorry, I'm going to take that. But what I'm going to say was, the one thing I like, and I have to, like, my mom is a fucking badass, man. Like, she taught us how to arm wrestle. She named my older brother after Muhammad Ali. I'll never forget when she held my hand. She said, "Don't." And I remember I was just like, because you're a kid and you're trying to make sense of the world, and you're like, this makes no sense. And then I'm like, why are you getting angry at me? I'm trying to protect you. But now that I'm older, what I realized was like, Eric, she's like, when she was cleaning herself off, what she was teaching me was like, you can't react like that to every situation that somebody like somebody does something like that. She didn't say it in those words, but when I got older, what I understood was she was like, what would have happened if you threw them at that lady? Like, we would have just been what she thought we were.
And or who knows what would have happened in there.
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on over there.
Oh, there it was like, we were in a little part of town, so they would have these groups called Sharpies, which were neo-Nazis. You know, like the leather jacket, skinhead. Like my older brother's best friend, he watched him slowly turn into a skinhead, the SS on the wall.
Really?
Yeah, well, and because he had to make a decision, you know, you all of a sudden turning 15 or 16. And so he started wearing all black, and then my older brother was like, and then he just couldn't hang out with him anymore. So my brother had to hang out with the other immigrants, like the kids from Liberia or anywhere else, roll around with screwdrivers, because it's like we are not welcomed in this world. And most of where I grew up has been that experience, except for Vancouver Island. I felt Vancouver Island made me feel like. That's when I was like...
A home.
A home.
Yeah.
I was like Canadian... Vancouver Island, especially the West Coast, BC, like that vibe, it let me flourish as an artist there. And I could never say enough good things about Vancouver Island. And that's why when you told me that you grew up in Sydney, I was like, yeah!
Yeah, it was chill.
Yeah.
Like, it was a cool place, like just everybody knew everybody.
Yeah.
You didn't lock your door, you know, all that stuff. It was cool.
You're doing Vancouver Island proud. Like, that's huge, man.
I loved it. I loved growing up there.
Yeah.
Now when I go, I feel a little trapped because you're on an island.
Yeah.
And you can't you got to get a ferry to get off.
Yeah.
Or a helijet or whatever.
Yeah.
And but it slows right down again. Like when I go back there, if I go to my mom's, I try not to sit down because if I sit down, I'll fall asleep. Like, it's so quiet.
Yeah,
It's so quiet,
quaint,
and everybody growing up, everybody was friends.
Yeah.
Everybody's parents,
Yeah.
you know, got along and stuff. And there's a little drama, you know, here and there, and gossip and all that kind of stuff. But it was a small town vibe, but like no other, like its own little world.
Yeah,
over
like a little
there.
ecosystem.
Yeah, and it's cool, and I'm glad that you had the same experience because I really loved growing up there. Like it felt like a worldly outlook on the world in this little place at the same, like you were looking at the rest of the world with a world view kind of thing. And then when I went traveling, you know, as a kid, you know, a young kid, I did a fair amount of traveling. For some reason, I felt like I, you know, had seen the world. Yeah. Even though, you know.
Yeah, Vancouver Island has that. Like, that's one of, like, I can't, like, like kids. I want to raise kids there. Like, go
everybody's
back
really nice.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, it's just on a whole, you know, as a whole kind of thing. Yeah. There's, it's not without its issues, as we said, but nowhere is, you know. But in general, speaking, like, just the people when you go over there, people are just nice and welcoming and happy and you know, whether they're hiding something or not, I don't know, but it's less like it's a nice place. You feel good.
It is,
there. It's different than growing up in a metropolitan sort of like a city kind of thing. It's like family everywhere you go, kind of thing.
Are there any goals or dreams, like now in this next stage of your career, what are some of the things you look forward to? Some of the projects you want to direct, maybe, or some things you're looking forward to move into?
Everything. Just looking forward to, I'm not going to be, you know, jump on the bandwagon with everybody. I'm looking forward to 2020 being over.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's just the time.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this whole COVID part of our lives. One way or the other, whatever it is, I don't even know what it is. It's a virus. Whatever it is, it's affecting all levels of all of us. I'm looking forward to that just going away. Yeah. Hopefully we all learn something from this experience.
To wash our hands more.
Yeah. Or, you know, how to get along and a little more or something without hugging everybody.
Yeah,
like
have a discourse and not argue.
It was interesting watching the world react to it, and the world is reacting to it. So, globally. But I was prepping a film right at the beginning of this COVID, and it's an indie film, but with the film industry right now, as you know, COVID testing is a big part if you have SAG actors and or DGA directors, et cetera, et cetera. So the whole testing process, which the cost was around $200 per person, you can't afford to do an indie film safely within those guidelines. So we've been trying to prep this film and, cast it and everything and balance the budget and, build into it the COVID safety protocols and everything else in the budget. It's made it almost impossible
that's unfortunate.
to do. It's interesting. But I've had, 2 or 3 films with this little company, that we were getting ready and developing all the, a series and writing and doing all sorts of different things. One thing that COVID did was all forced us to sit and sort of be, if you didn't do it, I don't know what you were doing, but it caused us all to sit and be introspective and look into ourselves and have a forced meditation, if you will. I started doing a lot more writing with my partner Mike on this Juvie series that is based on my life as a juvenile corrections officer, and I want to do more of that. I really enjoy writing, actually.
Nice.
It's fun, and it just sort of, whatever gets produced or ends up, doesn't matter. It's pretty therapeutic, actually.
Nice.
To get it out, especially I was writing about real life instances. So it is cathartic in a way, or very much so. I want to do more of that. Directing some more TV right now, which is always fun. And I want the gyms to be open again. I was in wicked shape, right? My 6-year-old and I were working out every day. What I don't want to do is be a homeschool teacher ever again. Because I'm retired from that. That was like one of the most traumatic things I've ever. But my daughter's, my youngest daughter, I have 2 daughters. My youngest daughter is a very powerful personality.
She is,
So she's much tougher than I am. So
Xena, the warrior princess.
No, she eats Xena for breakfast.
She even stands like it everywhere she walks. This little like.
It's because she's jacked.
Yeah.
She does like adult push-ups. Handstand push-ups. Like she's a specimen. So trying to get her to do anything she didn't want to do homeschool-wise is just like it was a fight every day. So I don't want to go through that again. It was traumatic.
It's funny. It's like manage and run a team of 200 people like nothing.
Oh,
the 6-year-old at home. You're like
she's way scarier
like
than
she's just I can't do it.
She's something else. But I enjoy watching both my daughters grow up, and I want to continue to do that. And I want to train somewhere. I want to get out there. I want to go to a gym. I want to spar.
Nice.
I want to get in the ring, and I enjoy the sparring process. I enjoy getting hit. It just makes you feel alive. I guess. I want to get back and do that again. I wanted to be doing that a lot more. And we're not. Nobody's working, so let's all train. But I got so much, and then everything shut down again. So. I've enjoyed mentoring people in different aspects of the business and whatnot. I'd like to do some more of that and put together different education programs and help people sort of, because everybody's, diversity and inclusion is a thing, but if you're not preparing those people and you're just thrusting the people who are getting an opportunity, because there are lots of opportunities now and lots of people are getting opportunities, but if you're not preparing the people that you're thrusting into these opportunities, then you're doing them a disservice.
Yeah, and then they become a representative of that group.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
That's unfair.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's
yeah.
not. It's like, here,
Yeah.
hey, do you want to be a director?
Yeah.
Or do you want to be a director? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Great, here.
Yeah.
Go swim.
Yeah.
Okay, you
Yeah.
know, it's not conducive to setting them up for success.
No.
And I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah.
You know, it just becomes optics at that point, and it's just look what I did. Like I helped somebody out. It's not, you didn't help them out, because now they're standing on set and they're unaware of several things, and the crew is, you know, kind of, you know, I want people, if people are getting opportunities, no matter who they are, they should be completely prepared. And when they get that opportunity, they go in there and they murder it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and they're like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
take that shit,
Yeah.
you know, like that. And they walk away and they can be proud of themselves, and everybody can say, like, great job, you know, and that's what it should be about.
Yeah.
It's got to be more than just making space and giving people opportunity.
Yeah.
It's got to be more
Just
than
because
that.
you look a certain way, or you look
Whatever it is, whatever the reason, your age, your sex, your ethnic background, whatever. Prepare the people that you are giving the opportunity to for success.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't bother.
There's no
You're
point
not helping anybody
No.
by doing that. Did you feel the lights change just now? It's batteries.
Yeah.
I like this. This is nice.
That's cool. So you'd want to move more into that mentor phase. So pretty much kind of do what you're already doing. Mentor.
I love what I'm doing. I love directing. I want to get these films done on this slate that we have prepped.
Yeah.
I want to work with certain people out there that I haven't had the opportunity to work with yet.
Yeah.
I want to keep developing the series. There's somebody looking at it right now, the Juvie series, that wants to make it into a film, apparently, but we'll see where that goes.
Cool.
I've got different things in development, working with some writers, and obtained somewhat rights to life rights with someone to develop a film based on a very interesting person.
Nice.
I can't talk about yet.
Cool.
And there's just a lot of stuff going on. I just want to stay busy.
Copy.
Sitting around doing nothing is not my thing.
Yeah,
so not my jam.
I can see that.
So yeah, if there was nothing to do, I'd want to go to the gym.
Yeah.
So or whatever. Being a dad, being a husband, being, you know, all these things. I want to be able to go out for dinner with a huge group of people. And,
Yeah.
you know,
hug.
and hug
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
And go to, I know some of my friends who need a hug, you know.
Yeah.
Who you can't be there for them, and you know.
Yeah.
Lots of things. I don't like to limit myself to, like, my goal is this or whatever. I'm just all the things, you know.
Nice, man.
Just want to keep going, doing things, and working with good people.
Nice, man.
Working with, you know, exceptionally talented and non-asshole-ish people.
Yeah.
Because that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
Working and or in your life and or,
Nice, man.
you know, try to, again, as you get older, you try to be a better person and, you know,
Yeah.
and give back a certain amount,
Yeah.
whatever you can.
Yeah.
Not till you are bled dry, but
Yeah.
because you got to live.
Yeah.
But and you need to keep a certain amount of your own energy for
Yeah.
your family and yourself. But you know, giving back is a great thing. And
Well, Bam, you
traveling, I want to travel more.
Yeah, you absolutely did not even have to come. Once again, thank you so much for coming and taking the time and giving back, you know, because a lot of people think of giving as, monetary or value, but time. And just the fact that you were willing to give us your time and knowledge is
I gotta say, it was great to
incredible.
come over on, like, I've been really busy prepping this thing. It was a great distraction to do something different.
Nice.
And I've been watching your podcast, and you're doing a great job, and I think it's cool. And it's you're super welcoming and always been a sweet guy, like a nice guy.
That,
so hanging out with you isn't hard. But then I put in your address, and it said 18 minutes to get here.
Yeah.
And you're 2 blocks away from
Yeah,
me.
because you said driving over, and I was like, oh, I thought,
Yeah.
maybe he doesn't live as close as
Yeah, it says a 4-minute drive, but it said an 18-minute walk. So I was like, I better drive. And so I'm looking forward to not misreading Google Maps ever again.
Nice.
And that's a big goal of mine. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Bam, it's been an absolute pleasure. Is there any advice you could give to any future creatives coming out of Vancouver Island, or even just like anywhere? You got any advice for the youths out there?
Depends.
Do you have any advice for getting shit done? Because there's that point when you're a teenager when you dream of things, but very few people can take them from idea to fruition like you did. So do you have any advice for those steps?
Find out what the steps are.
Okay.
And focus. Don't waste your time smoking dope every day.
Yeah.
And going, wow, I got this great idea. Like a lot of kids do. And
Yeah.
I mean, we did,
Yeah.
so creative when I smoke weed.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't smoke weed.
Yeah.
But
Be focused.
Yeah, be focused. That's one thing that martial arts helped me with was self-discipline. So find out whatever it is you want to do, find out how to do it, and go do it, and do everything it takes to get there. Train, collect as much information. If it's being a stunt person, train in as many different disciplines, martial arts, gymnastics, motocross, try everything.
Yeah.
If you want to be a specialist, be the best you can be. I'm not going to say be the best in the world.
Yeah.
Because that's not possible for everybody.
No.
It's quite impossible for a lot of people. So be the best you can be.
Yeah.
Potentially you might surprise yourself,
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
I mean, don't be discouraged. Give yourself permission to fail, and give yourself permission to pivot and switch gears and do something else. Like you may discover, I didn't know I was going to be a director. As a kid. I owned a hair salon when I was 19 years old.
Crazy.
That's the first thing. Then I was a juvenile corrections officer. Then I was a stuntman. Then I was a fight choreographer, stunt coordinator, second year director. Like, does one thing lead to the other? No, not necessarily.
Yeah.
So, and that's just career-wise.
Yeah.
Give yourself permission to change your mind. Just don't change your mind 5,000 times because you got to focus on something.
Yeah.
Don't be too hard on your parents, and be an adult about it. Like, take responsibility for your own actions and put your life in your own hands, and run with it.
See, that's important, because even just those key words you said, give yourself permission, because a lot of people don't realize that they have the power to do that, because they always kind of wait for somebody else to do it for them instead of giving themselves.
I never did. I expected, for whatever reason, I expected a lot out of myself all the time. So failing was never an option. So
I can relate
and I
to
was
that.
like, oh, if I try, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
So I'd always I'm just not going to try at this because I don't want to. I'm gonna, I'll just obsess about it.
Yeah.
Like maybe I think I'm a certain sort of level of OCD in certain aspects of things, so I'll obsess about something and just keep going.
Yeah.
And then nothing else. I'll have tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And that'll be it.
Yeah.
So I've been very careful on what I put my time into. Because everybody's like, hey, you want to go play golf? I'm like, I don't want to play golf. I'll just get obsessed.
Yeah.
And I've never wanted to play. I've gone out a couple times, and I realize it's really hard.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to start.
Yeah.
On that.
I don't need to start anything.
No, you guys go play golf. I'm going to go do this.
Yeah.
So I've been very specific about whatever that I feel that I want to, go forward with. But the things that I've tried to really, really, excel in my own, within myself.
Yeah.
Try to excel at what I can.
Yeah.
For me, not excel for I'm the best in the world or whatever.
Just for yourself.
Don't care.
Yeah.
I know that I competed once in the World Police and Fire Games. I was a corrections officer at the time. So it was in Memphis, Tennessee, and I represented Team Canada. Team Canada's karate team. I was Team Canada. So I was the only member of the team. I was the only one on the team.
We have Team Canada. It's just you.
Thank you. Yep. And I was, however old I was, in the early 20s, and I won the bronze medal. I was sure I was going to beat everybody, people from Russia, Austria, all over the place. And I fought guys from Ireland and Austria and Russia and the States, and I got both my ankles sprained really badly, and I couldn't walk, so I was going for the gold, and then I could barely stand there.
Fuck.
So I couldn't go any farther. So I lost, but I got the bronze, the third.
Yeah.
But I learned there that I came from this little small town, this island, and here I was competing against people from all over the world.
Yeah.
There was like 7,000 competitors. It was at the time the second largest sporting event in the world next to the Olympics.
Oh shit.
Attended by,
Yeah.
and it had different categories than the Olympics as well. Some that it had and some and more.
Yeah.
But what I learned was like the world is small. Like here I was this kid from this little town training with just the people I train with, and I wasn't flying around going to, I got to go train in Japan with so-and-so. I've got to fly over to, Russia to train with so-and-so because I got to beat these guys. I just trained with my people from Victoria and Sydney, and I was there competing against all these other people from around the world that were soldiers and and I was just this kid, and it gave me a real sense of global just humanity that I can beat these motherfuckers. But when you think about it and you're sitting in this small town, you're like, oh, because they're from way over there or whatever, that it makes it different or better or whatever. It doesn't.
No.
We're all people. And so I was like, wow, I couldn't believe how far I got, in that thing. And I came back from that with a more sort of like sense of accomplishment, yes, but like sense of humans of the world.
Yeah.
Like it's not like kicking everybody's ass from around the world makes you feel like I could kick anybody's ass from around the world.
Yeah.
It wasn't that.
Yeah.
It was that, they don't know.
With the...
Yeah, you can. It's just. It doesn't matter where you're from, or it doesn't matter, and it doesn't mean yes, everybody can go do that either.
Yeah.
It just means that the world is not this big.
No.
It's not just you. It's not just where you came from. There's a lot more world out there. But all those people grew up somewhere also, and they were kids at one time, and and we're just all, we're just all people. Yeah. And it made me realize how we're just all people back then, because you used to like put people up on a pedestal and be afraid of them or be like they're a machine or they're like whatever, and it's just like
they're people.
They're just people. Like you watch Al Pacino or your whoever or whoever your favorite movie star is, and they're just this whatever. No, he's just a dude. Or they're just a woman. They're just a guy. They're whatever.
I remember when I was that was when I met Michael Jai White, because he as a kid, like that is Like
he's a specimen.
yeah.
He's
and
like,
I remember that I was like, I was doubling him, and my skinny black ass sitting beside him, looking like the most budget bin version of Michael Jai White ever. But when I met him, the one thing
I remember that too.
Yeah, you remember? You're like,
you're doubling him.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's a big man.
Yeah.
He's
my skinny.
yeah. And he's got a very deep voice too.
Oh, and he's intimidating. But it was amazing just to sit down and talk to him, and then.
But he's a sweetheart.
He was
of a guy.
Yeah, like he was just like he's a purist. Like he's a pure martial artist.
He's a martial artist. He's a real
like
he's
actual
a real guy.
like everything about him, his life, his conduct, he's like how he like
he's a real friend. He's a parent. He's a husband. He's all the things, you know.
Yeah.
He's just a good guy, and you can sit there and talk to him. You can call him up and chat with him about anything.
Yeah.
You know, he's a good guy. He's directing now and stuff, and you know.
I saw him and his wife were just put out a project together.
Yeah. Jillian's she's doing the action.
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And we haven't met in person, but just talked on the internet. But he's just, it's weird, like just sitting and he's a person.
Yeah.
He's a very well trained, very muscular, very tough person.
Yeah.
But he's a person. He's a dude.
Yeah.
He's just.
It's intimidating being around something like that because I was supposed to do a teep or something, but I did like a switch and then kick. And he was like, "What did you just do right there with the feet?" And I was like, "Oh, this dude's just always watching." And I was like, and then I stuttered because I'm like, Mr. Jai, I did, and then it's like, I'm forgetting how to do my own shit because I'm like, it's Michael Jai White. Like, it's like if I'm playing ball in front of Michael Jordan and you think you're okay, and then you start playing and you're like, oh shit, I suck.
The funniest thing is, and we've been doing it here, but he's like, everybody's like, it's Michael Jai White because he's like, that's the name on the marquee. And he's all like, why does everybody have to say my whole name all the time? And I'm like, I don't know. I thought that's just what everybody. He's like, just Mike. I'm just Mike. So now whenever I see him, I go, hey, just Mike, what's going on? Just
why
Mike.
does everyone have to say the...
He said everybody has to say.
I think it's because I appreciate that it just rolls off the tongue. Like, I have Eric Mazumpaka Sabanyana Wamtara. Like, that doesn't roll off the tongue, but Michael
It
Jai
just rolled off your tongue.
That's because like I had sufficient 3 decades to practice. But
Yeah.
it's not like a Michael Jai White. Like, that's like a cool... It's like almost like a title.
I don't know. You sounded like a prince or something. Like
there's actually an exclamation mark hidden in there as well.
Yeah. Well, some people just seem like you want to say their whole name for some reason. I don't know.
I think with him, it's just he brings that out because no one just wants to call him Mike. You know, like...
No, but like the closest people to him, just call him Mike.
Call him Mike?
Yeah. Just Mike. Yeah.
I told him that I was like, hey, just to be honest with you, working with you is like, if I was a ball player, it'd be like playing ball with Michael Jordan. And if I fuck up, I'm sincerely sorry. And he just kind of laughed and he was like, and then he kind of like, and then I was like, because I just wanted to tell him, I'm like, hey man, like I just respect you so much. I don't like this isn't just like I never thought I would be around Michael Jai White. Like as a kid, I used to watch Spawn. I was in video arts. Never in my fucking life thought I'd be in film. It wasn't like a direction. I was like an artist who kind of like had the same infinity for movies. Like really like held me. But once you're around people like Michael Jai White that you respected and you like look up to, and they just treat you like another human, then you're like, oh my god, like we're just people. Like
it's just Mike.
It's just Mike.
Yeah.
I just like my job. I like martial arts. I like doing what I do.
Oh, he's super humble.
Yeah.
And he trains all the time still. He's in movies that aren't martial arts movies, He's
an incredible talent.
Yeah.
Like he's just like even not just the art, like even his acting.
He's just a nice guy.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like
just really calming to talk to.
Yeah.
Just his voice like calms me.
Yeah. No, I feel it. Even just being around him. It's funny because you grow up having to mishmash together your idols, right? Like he was like one of the only action. He was like him and Wesley Snipes. So you grow up, you look up to those guys, and it's just funny once you're a kid looking up to these guys, and you grow up, and then you're like beside them, and you're like, holy shit, like you shaped me as a person. Like
Wes is one of the best DJs I think I've worked with.
Wait, what? Wesley Snipes is a
We
DJ?
did, yeah, Blade 3. Yeah, Blade 3 it was shot here, and a bunch of us worked on it, whatever.
Now I can't stop seeing the opening of Blade 1 instead of him walking in with a
Yeah.
knife. He's just DJing in the back.
Particularly, it was like dance hall.
Crazy.
Yeah, and he would host these parties. I think it was Halloween. Once he had a house out in like Deep Cove, I think.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago, 2003-ish.
Yeah.
And we all went there, and I was like, oh, these dope beats. Like, he brought a DJ? And I looked at the DJ, and it was all, and I had just been to Jamaica, so there was this really good dance hall. Like, it was, at the time, it was like Beanie Man or something.
Yeah,
I can't remember. And I was like, fuck, I gotta get this. This is, and I'm like, it's him! You know? And there he was, you know. He was DJing his own party. It was
That's
dope.
fucking cool, man.
And it was like, he was really good. Like
he loves this shit.
that's the cool part. He was like,
He was actually good.
so good at it. Yeah.
That's fun.
I digress.
Well, Bam, once again.
Well, Eric.
To end this podcast, episode 5, with you has been an honor.
Frida, sorry.
And Frida.
Oh, she's been upside down this whole time. Oh.
I think she was upright for a while there. There we go. And Frida, our special guest, who's been the other Frida here.
I noticed that in your other podcast.
I know. It's been an absolute pleasure, Bam. I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a Happy Holiday, whatever gets you going on celebrations. All the things. Bam, thanks so much. Respect the fuck out of you, like I always say. You're cool as fuck, Mr. Don Juan.
Same. Where did that come from?
Don Juan, it's just like what we used to say for like just old pimps, like people that were just cool back in the day. Don Juan, because Don Juan was a character in a book. No, Don Juan. He was a very famous like OG or something.
A lover or something.
Don Juan, like he was like some cool dude from literature back in the day. But anyways, please hit that like button. Please subscribe and stay tuned as 2021 will bring us a whole new array of guests, inspiration, motivation, and just dope shit.
Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, Jackie Chan.
We're doing all of it. Even
Jet
Steven
Li.
Seagal.
Steven Seagal. He'll be right here.
Keanu Reeves.
That would be good.
Yeah,
but
Keanu Reeves.
You don't want Seagal.
No.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Seagal. Happy holidays, everyone. Much love. And Bam, do you have anything to say?
See you on set.
Nice. Front kick.
Yes, to make us new rebels. Hey, yeah. I'm on my mission, oh yeah. I'm on my mission. Don't get it twisted. I'm on my mission, oh yeah. Don't get it twisted. I'm on my mission, oh yeah. Don't get it twisted. I'm on my mission, oh yeah. New rebels. We the new rebels. Hey, yeah. New rebels. We the new rebels. Hey, they be saying good is bad, they be saying bad is good. Everybody got it misunderstood.